Okay, guys, this is part two of my conversation with Brian Tew. I didn't know if you didn't have a Zoom account that it cut your time off for the meeting. So StreamYard is better anyway, and we're just going to continue on. Brian had some videos that he wanted me to show, and he wanted to kind of explain how they relate to targeting and also, remote neural monitoring, remote neural manipulation. Okay, go ahead, Brian. You want me to pull it up?
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of static on your. Every time you move, your headphones are causing static. I don't know if it's what it is, but so if you move back and forth, there's a lot of static.
Like this?
Okay, good, good. No, you're all right now. Okay, okay. I guess I don't know what it was. Okay, so all right. So yeah, play Deja Vu. Play that video Deja Vu. Let them see it.
Okay.
And while you're setting it up, I'll just keep talking. So
Okay.
that way, so yeah, and we were talking about patterns. One of the fatal flaws in their technology is the fact that they rely upon repetitive reinforcement. And I'm getting,
It's
yeah,
yeah, I hear that
okay.
static on your side. Can you maybe turn your level down or your volume down?
Uh, let's see if I can.
I'm.
Uh,
It sounds pretty clear now.
that's not it. That's not the video.
Yeah, this is the deja vu. This is with the cat.
Okay. All right, go ahead and pull it up, play it full screen, and pull it up and show them what we're talking about here.
Okay. It's just taking a second. Come on. Okay, there we go.
Oh, deja vu.
What did you just say?
Nothing, just had a little deja vu.
What did you see? What happened?
A black
Pretty
cat
bad
went past
visual,
us,
pretty poor
and then
quality.
another that looked just like it.
Yeah,
How
a
much
little
like it?
bit.
Was
It's
it the same cat?
choppy because my computer's really
Might have been, I'm
slow.
not sure.
Switch, APOC.
But so he saw the cat twice going by. You want me to play it real quick one more time? Let's
Yeah,
see.
play it again. Yeah, yeah.
Or where the cat walks by, he sees it. Then he sees it doing the exact same thing.
Deja vu.
What did you just say?
Nothing, just had a little deja vu.
What did you see? What happened?
A black cat went past us, and then another that looked just like it.
How much like it? Was it the same cat?
Might have been, I'm not sure.
Switch, APOC.
What is it?
A deja vu is usually a glitch in the matrix. It happens when they change something.
So it's a glitch in the matrix whenever they're changing something in the whole system.
Okay. All right, stop it right there.
Okay.
Okay. So one of the things that they rely on is what are called pattern recognition. Okay, and it's one of the fatal flaws in their technology. Okay, they rely on these patterns. They determine coherent patterns of thought. Okay, by forcing the victim into patterns of behavior, patterns of speech. Okay, in other words, until they can establish enough of these patterns, enough of these responses, of these patterns of responses, which they can then take all of those patterns of your responses, there's multiple responses to the same thing, and they correlate them all into response statistics. And then from that statistical data, a coherent pattern of thought is determined and developed, which is then integrated back into R&M data. Okay, so one of the fatal flaws in their technology is the fact that they rely upon repetitive reinforcement to generate patterns. In order to generate patterns, of responses from an individual, they must engage in patterns.
Now, can I ask you
Okay,
this, Brian?
patterns.
This is very
Hold
important.
on, hold
Okay.
on.
Okay, go ahead. I
In
got
order
something.
in order to solicit multiple patterns of the same response, emotion, okay, from the victim, they must engage in the same or similar patterns of behavior or speech. Like the car you saw with the one light over and over and over again.
Many.
Okay, that was
Yeah.
a pattern, right? Right. So, and
Still seeing
once
it.
they have enough of, right, once they have enough of those responses from you, they correlate all those responses, all those patterns of responses, into what are called response statistics. And then the supercomputer takes that statistical data, and from it, it determines a coherent pattern of your thought. Okay, and then once it has a coherent pattern of thought, it then integrates it back into R&M data. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about when I say repetitive reinforcement. Okay, it's a fatal flaw in their technology because it easily identifies to the person who can read active memory that, hey, I'm being attacked. This is not normal. I shouldn't be obsessively and compulsively thinking about peanut butter or pornography or religion or whatever it is they're using, whatever it is they think you will respond to. Okay, that's obsessive and compulsive behavior. I'm not OCD. I'm not obsessive compulsive disorder. So there's no reason why I should be having this same thought, this same emotion over and over again. That tells you that's a pattern. Okay, so that I'm being attacked. Okay, this is not real. This is artificial. You determine the real from the artificial by looking for patterns. As soon as Morpheus saw the pattern, okay, he realized this was a glitch in the matrix. This was artificial. Okay, this was not real. Something was very wrong. Okay, Neo didn't recognize it because he was just fresh out of he was a new targeted individual whose eyes had just been opened. But Morpheus recognized the danger immediately. He saw the pattern developing. Okay, that's how victims can tell they're being targeted and attacked because their technology relies upon repetitive reinforcement, the same mental suggestions injected over and over in a looping pattern, the same emotions injected over and over in a looping pattern. Remember, any set of your brain waves can be remotely captured by the supercomputer, held by that computer, and then here's the key word, perpetually replayed in your brain. Okay? So remotely captured, held, and perpetually replayed in your brain. That perpetually replayed, that's where the patterns begin to develop. So patterns show that you're being attacked. That's how you read active memory. You look for patterns. Okay?
And
And that
Brian,
repetitive reinforcement.
so do you think that this is happening? Because it seems like my attackers, they will do things like a couple of times or whatever, and it seems like they're doing that memory management or trigger, and they're doing it a couple of times manually, and it's being put into the automated system that will carry on and just do it, do it automatically from then on. And then they'll do something
Right.
else manually like do a pattern of it and then put it into the automated system to keep doing it. So they'll keep putting in new things, new triggers and things to do over and over, right, manually, but putting it into the automated system to then keep doing it. That's kind of what I've experienced, or I think is going on. You still there? I can't hear you, Brian. Did your audio get cut off? Brian, I can't hear you. Your mic's on. Okay, well, wait a
Can you hear
second.
me?
Yeah,
I'm still on.
I can hear you now. I couldn't hear anything after
I'm
what I
getting no
said.
sound.
You're getting no sound from me?
I'm, I'm receiving no sound
Getting no sound. Let me mute my
from
mic
your end.
and then unmute my mic. Can you hear me now? Can you I don't know what's
There are
going
going to
on.
be times where you're just going to have to stop it and start over again, and you're going to
No.
have to go back and re-edit.
No, this happens. This happens.
I can't hear a word you're saying.
Okay, can't hear a word I'm saying. Hold on one second. This stuff happens. Let's just move on with it. I'm gonna
Okay,
mute.
so what I'm going to do is I'm going to X out of this, and I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to click the StreamYard link again. We'll start over.
And just come back in. We don't need to start over. Just come back in and we'll keep going. We'll keep going. This stuff happens, man. I can edit it out. Okay, we're going to wait for Brian to come back. It should just take a second. This kind of stuff happens. He can't hear me. I'm not sure why. And then I'll try to remember what we were talking about. I'm sure he'll remember what he was talking about. Okay, Brian.
Yeah. Okay, so, all right, so I'm just sitting here laying on my bed. So,
Okay.
all right, so listen. So what you were talking about is that they're engaging in what you said. What did you say that they do what to you, and then that becomes
Well, I was saying that my attackers seem to do manual injections, or like, if I take a medication, it's like they're doing a manual memory dissolution, but then they do it a couple of times, or however many times, and it's put into the automated system, kind of like the manual V2K that they do. They say these short phrases over and over, then put all that into the chatterbox, so the automated system can then do the V2K with just the chatterbox, right? So those things that they're doing with remote neural manipulation, it starts off with human operators doing it.
right.
What do you think about that? Because that seems like what I'm
Yeah,
experiencing.
yeah. Okay, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Okay, listen. All right, the last response of the victim becomes the pattern. Remember, we were talking about patterns. Okay, you may have to go back and re-edit some of this nonsense, these gaps.
No, it's gonna
Okay,
be good. Part one,
the
part two.
last, the last response of the victim becomes the pattern for the next wave of torture or harassment. You understand? So whatever last response they can generate from you becomes the pattern for the next wave of terror and torture. Okay, that's how their technology works. That's what I'm talking about when I say they need to force you to continually or perpetually respond to their street theater, their situational scenarios, and their conversational scenarios. That's street theater.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, they're not just engaging in these situational scenarios and conversational scenarios over and over again because they don't have anything else to do. They're doing it to generate the patterns of responses from you, emotional responses, a pattern of responses. Okay, so they're using these scripted mind games against you to force you into a set of responses, and whatever the last response is, okay, say you were happy, you were sad, you were mad, you were glad, you were depressed, you were, ecstatic, you were having, and then they started running women at you, and you started suffering from, they started attacking you with lust, remote neural attacks of lust. Well, you were able, the last response was the beautiful woman in the bikini walking past you. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so all this other nonsense that they did to you, they got what they needed, but that last response then becomes the pattern for the next wave of harassment. So they're going to keep running women in bikinis past you, okay? And then whatever last response you have to that becomes a pattern for the next wave, and then the next wave, and then the next wave, okay? So that whatever emotional state you're in, whatever thoughts you have regarding that situational scenario or conversational scenario becomes the pattern for the next wave of torture or harassment. So say, for example, the woman in the bikini is wearing an orange bikini. And so you notice that the color is orange. So next wave of harassment will be orange, people in orange shirts, people in orange cars, people in orange hats. You see, people in orange tennis shoes. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? It'll be
Mm-hmm.
the color orange. Okay? And then, say after you notice that, they're wearing the color orange, they're also engaging in, the same behavior or speech. They're talking about Clemson, go Clemson. The Clemson Tigers wear orange. So they're wearing all these orange Clemson t-shirts. Well, you notice from that last response, you notice it's about football. Okay, so then the next wave of harassment becomes about football. They don't care anything about football. They don't care anything about the color orange, and they don't care anything about women in bikinis. What they care about is their technology. Okay, so they need to continually force you into patterns. So these abnormal scenarios are crucial to force you into a set of responses to determine coherent patterns of thought. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
that's the
they
hypergame theory. That's
so
hypergame. That's not the,
right, right. And these coherent patterns of thought from us, like our reactions, they gauge them. That a main way that they actually map the brain is from those
right.
responses. Okay.
One response of a woman in the bikini is not enough. They need 10, 15, 20 in
Mm-hmm.
order to determine a coherent pattern. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So your first response is not enough. They need to run 10 more women past you in orange bikinis. Okay? That's response statistics.
Right.
That's a set of responses that they can make a statistical analysis of. Okay, and it's hundreds of times. I mean, they'll do it 100 different ways. They have many different ways of accomplishing what they want, from the plausible to the absurd. They will engage in tactics in these conversational and situational scenarios, which range from the plausible to the absurd. Why? So that as soon as you complain that it's happening, you look delusional.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so at the same time they discredit you, they're actually achieving their objectives of forcing you into response statistics, into repetitive patterns of thought to determine coherent patterns which can be remotely measured and integrated back into R&M data. That's the hypergame theory.
Mm-hmm.
That's hypergame. Okay? So no matter what you say, no matter what you do, there's always the torture, the harassment that is endless because there's always a higher optimum to choose from. The color, the woman, the football, the peanut butter, no matter what it is you think of, that last response will become the pattern for the next wave of torture. So there's always a higher optimum for them to choose from. So because there's always a higher optimum for them to choose from, there's always a next move to be made.
Mm-hmm.
So the stalking and the harassment is endless. It goes on ad infinitum until your death.
Yeah,
Because there's
I
always a next
feel
move.
like I feel that like the psychic driving, there's psychic driving with V2K, and then there's trauma, and it's like your brain can never stop thinking, even if you like you kind of your brain just gets quiet, you're so tired it can't think, your brain's always thinking something, either like in your inner voice or visuals or something like that. And then you got the V2K responding to like every thought that you're thinking in visual, and so that's like this continual psychic driving that just builds, right? And then you got all the
Right,
things that you're talking about too, like the gang
right.
stalking and all that stuff. So I feel like it's just like you really can't get out of that cycle unless you can stop thinking, you know.
Well, no, you can't get out of the cycle. But that's a
Mm-hmm.
good idea what you're saying. The system will is designed to drive by force, mental torture,
Mm-hmm.
repetitive reinforcement. We just talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, mental torture. The system is designed to drive by force your memory and thought process. Okay? Now, to drive by force by your memory and thought process, it's not going to allow your mind to quiet down. It's not designed to allow your mind to quiet down. So the game never ends. The system must constantly. The reason that the system will not allow your mind to quiet down is because the supercomputer that's attacking you must constantly provoke you into sensory and neural. Are you listening?
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm getting my vitamin. I'm listening. You're this
So
is yeah.
the system it constantly needs to provoke you in sensory and neural responses to engineer patterns of multiple synaptic responses from you. Okay, so one response is not enough. So they need multiple responses of the same behavior, same speech, same emotion, etc., to determine coherent patterns of thought. That's called verification.
Mm-hmm.
Those are synaptic responses in your brain. It's not just your physical response. It's a synaptic response that the system can remotely measure and identify and develop and integrate back into R&M data as it continues to build this cognitive model of your will, intellect, and emotion for training, research, and development. So
Right.
the process is endless.
That's
The
that's the
process is endless.
right, and
The
that's
process is endless. It's endless. Okay, it's
and
going to
that's
go on ad infinitum.
that's the reason that I feel like you can't outthink this. Like, I mean, because it's going to drive the brain. Like, even if you're not responding or you're responding not in a pattern and just, very randomly, right? You're doing things randomly. Your brain's still going and you're still reacting to the V2K. So that makes me just feel like you can't just outthink it with your thoughts because the system's
No,
going to be constantly doing this kind of mirror inside of a mirror thing. If you're trying to like fight it with your brain, the automated system will then just use that. They'll just use your brain trying to fight it. You know what I'm saying?
right. Well, but you can. Their technology is very fragile, and you can defeat it very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one of the ways you do that is breaking brain entrainment. You put the headphones on and start listening to music. And what happens? What happens? The mind quiets down. As soon as you start listening to that music, you break brain entrainment with a supercomputer. It's a quieting of the mind. Your
Mm-hmm.
mind quiets down. That's because you've broken brain entrainment with a system.
Like
Okay,
right
you've
when you
defeated you disrupted.
but right when you start listening to music, you break entrainment with the system, or do you have to listen to
It
music?
takes it takes about I guess about 30 to 60 seconds for your brain to become entrained. It takes a moment, okay? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but what they're going to do while you're listening to the music is they're going to start attacking you. The system, the supercomputer, not they, the supercomputer is designed to start attacking you with trauma or chaos and disruptions, or it's going to inject thoughts over and over, fabricated and falsified thoughts as you're listening to that music to keep you from focusing on the lyrics. Because if you focus on those lyrics, that's why I say it takes a short amount of time once you start listening to the music for your brain to break brain entrainment, for your mind to be entrained away from the visual and verbal entrainments, the mental suggestions of the supercomputer to the music. The music becomes the dominant external stimulus, and it breaks brain entrainment. But that's because not just because of the sound, but because of the lyrics. Okay, so once you lock on, your mind locks onto to those lyrics of that song, it breaks brain entrainment. Now, what the system is designed to do at that point is called censorship. Remember, we said everything they're doing to the victims, no matter what program you're involved in, falls into three categories: censorship, memory management, direct behavioral control. At that point, you're listening to music, your brain quiets down, you've broken brain entrainment. The system, the supercomputer, is designed to censor your ability to defeat their technology. So it's going to use trauma,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to use pain. It's going to
I,
use
I've got a question about that.
chaos.
I've got a question about trauma because this is trauma based, like mind control or trauma based behavioral control. So when they traumatize, like at the beginning of my targeting or the beginning of my overt targeting, the external hits with microwaves or just the feeling like half my body was just burning up with microwaves and feeling like I was going to have a heart attack every night. It was super, super intense. And I was thinking, this trauma probably has many things that they're trying to do with it. But I was thinking, whenever you're in a traumatic situation, it's like burned into your memory, right? Your adrenaline's going, and then that moment of trauma is like burned into your memory, right? So I was thinking that when they're doing this trauma, it's easier to map areas of the brain because your neurons are firing and the memory is so solid, right? Because the adrenaline's pumping, and it does something to the brain where mapping a certain part of the brain is super super easy. Um, Aside, like juxtaposed with you not being in trauma, they can still probably map the brain, but they're not getting as good of a total picture, right? A total neuronal picture. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right. What they're doing, listen, what they're doing is they're using physical and psychological trauma to map out and reverse engineer. Those are key words. physical and psychological trauma to map out and reverse engineer the sensory and neural pathways of
Right.
your brain and central nervous system.
Hmm.
Okay, that's how it works. I'm getting fluctuations in the volume here like crazy. Okay, so they use these trauma responses also to censor your ability to defeat their technology. Okay, remember censorship, memory management, direct behavioral control. That's everything they're doing to you, no matter what program you're in. That's everything they're doing to their victims every day. Okay, so the system is designed, the supercomputer is designed to stop that music from breaking brain entrainment with the system. So they will begin to inject with these thoughts, these grandiose thoughts, these graphic thoughts, these abusive thoughts, these incoherent thoughts. What it's doing is it's trying to disrupt your continuity of thought, to keep the lyrics, the music of that song, the lyrics from breaking brain entrainment with a system. So it will keep attacking you. You'll have all these grandiose, graphic, abusive, incoherent thoughts while you're listening to the music. That's the supercomputer attacking you to stop that music from defeating their technology.
But
You
how
see,
do they?
that's censorship.
Don't they have to have you entrained to be able to put those thoughts in? So it's like you're with the music, you're not totally breaking entrainment, but you're in the process of breaking the entrainment, right? Because
Dr.
to,
Robert Duncan, Dr. Robert Duncan sent me an email in Hong Kong,
mhm,
and I know the Chinese read it. They were monitoring everything. But one of the emails that he sent me explained that the focus of attention to the music, to the lyrics, breaks brain entrainment by jostling the indicators the system uses to lock onto the emotional state of the victim.
mhm.
Okay, and he was telling me how the music actually defeats their technology. So what's happening is that the indicators the system is using to remain locked onto your emotional state are jostled, and the system can no longer get an accurate reading of your memory and thought process. You have broken brain entrainment. The system, music, and there are other ways to do it, not just listening to music. You read a book, you can engage in outdoor activities, go swimming, go, you know, whatever, fishing. That helps to dampen the link as well. But music is the most powerful and and the quickest. And so the system has got to stop that. The system is programmed with trauma to stop that, or chaos to stop you from being able to break brain entrainment with that music. Okay? Because whether you realize it or not, the supercomputer is constantly injecting these visual and verbal sequences at the subconscious level 24 hours a day. That's
Right.
repetitive reinforcement. That's repetitive reinforcement. At night, if you close your eyes in a dark room, you see all these visual sequences, okay? Or sometimes you can hear the verbal sequences, okay? Mostly it's at the subconscious level, but sometimes you can see and hear it,
Well, and then
okay?
the
Well,
directed dreaming when
it's hold
people are
on, hold on,
asleep
hold on,
and
hold
they're
on. Well, hold on. Okay, so it's using those visual and verbal sequences to remain locked on to your emotional state, to your brain. Okay? And if you do anything that overpowers those visual and verbal sequences, you defeat their technology. Well, that's what the supercomputer does. The music does. It becomes the dominant external stimulus. And by being the dominant external stimulus, it overpowers those visual and verbal sequences. So the visual and verbal sequences the system is using constantly to keep your brain entrained to the supercomputer are overpowered. They're dampened, and brain entrainment is broken. Now, as soon as you stop listening to that music, the system can lock back onto your emotional state again, lock back onto your brain, but not while you're listening to that music. So in the process of you listening to that music, the system has got to inject with trauma and chaos. Okay, and if that doesn't work, it's going to inject with these mental suggestions, with these remote neural attacks to disrupt your continuity of thought, to erase short-term memory. Why? At regular intervals, every 30 seconds while you're listening to that song, to keep the lyrics from breaking brain entrainment. You understand what I'm saying?
yeah, I
That's what they
understand.
do to minimize the cognitive effect, to minimize, if it's pleasing Christian music, it's really, really devastating to their technology, because if it's compatible with the victim's belief system, what it's doing is it's not only breaking brain entrainment, but it's actually deconstructing. Because remember, they're trying to reformat, they're trying to repattern your brain, they're trying to rewire your memory and thought process. Okay, so anything which depatterns that, which deconstructs their ability to do that, they got to stop or minimize. That's called censorship. Okay, trauma, chaos, whatever. And part of it is the mental torture of them constantly attacking you while you're listening to the music with these mental suggestions. And mostly these mental suggestions are always going to be grandiose, graphic, abusive, and incoherent. Okay, that's mental torture, and it's repetitive. It's called repetitive reinforcement. That's how they create all these killers, man. That's how they get people to shoot kids. That's how they get people to shoot innocent people, or attack people with knives. They just use repetitive reinforcement. So the system is designed. Remember, any set of brainwaves can be captured, held, and perpetually replayed in the victim's brain. Supercomputer captures those brainwaves from you. Okay, it then holds on to them until you start thinking of something similar to what it was able to capture and identify. Okay, then it injects them immediately at speed of light back into your subconscious. So say you were thinking about, the Atlanta Falcons, okay, and the system captured that. Okay, the next time you start thinking about Atlanta or the Falcons, it's going to start injecting with Atlanta Braves, Atlanta Hawks, Atlanta, Georgia, the Atlanta Symphony, the Falcons, the Eagles, the you know what I'm saying? It's just with all these little suggestions that they're grandiose, graphic, abusive, incoherent suggestions they're going to use. Those are called thought-triggered attacks. So that's how the system works. The repetitive reinforcement, it is able to take the artificial brain waves of the victim. Say, for example, rage. One of the first things that they do is they force you, using electromagnetic low frequency waves, into an agitated and angry state, so they can verify, so they can measure, they can remotely measure and integrate that specific frequency, which causes you to fly into a rage, back into their system. So in the future, all they need to do to get you to fly into a rage is just hit you with that frequency. So the system will target you with the previous memory references. Say it's a previous memory reference of an organized stalker, okay? And then it will inject simultaneously, at the same time, it will inject the motivational impulse, because it doesn't just capture the event. It doesn't just capture the memory of the event. It captures the associated impulse, all the brainwaves that you had with that event. Say, for example, you were stalked earlier that day, okay? And you had a feeling of agitation and rage, but you also remember the event. Well, the system will, later on, the system will inject that same memory of that organized stalker back into your brain over and over in a looping pattern. And simultaneously, with each remote neural attack, it will inject the motivational impulse of anger and rage. So the victim, the mind control victim, the trauma-based mind control victim begins to just constantly burn with anger and rage. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Here's
and so
my question.
Hold on. This is how they force people to kill. Hold on. People need to understand this. This is how they force people to kill people. Okay. So what the system will do is it just keeps injecting over and over, anger and rage until the mind control victim, the normal memory and thought process of the mind control victim, the artificial brainwaves of rage are reinforced to such an extent that they're reinforced over the normal memory and thought process of the victim. So the mind control victim becomes a ticking time bomb who's constantly enraged, flying into a rage about everything. Mm-hmm. They repattern the victim's brain that way. Okay? So you begin to hate black people. You never hated black people or Jewish people, okay? Or women or homosexuals, or, this is how they create race riots, okay? They just kept injecting the memory reference along with the motivational impulse. Your own previous brainwaves, now artificial, okay, and reinforcing that over your normal memory and thought process. Your normal memory and thought process was, I like black people, they're nice people. I like Jewish people, they're nice people. I like these people. Now you hate them. Why? Because the system was able to rewire, to repattern your memory and thought process by reinforcing this agitation and rage and these fabricated or falsified memories over your normal memory and thought process.
Can they really make us hate a whole race of? I don't think they can really make us hate a whole race of people.
Yes. If the victim does not know,
they've made me like real enraged and stuff like that. But it's like just at certain people, just at specific people. I guess
a lot of these domestic violence. I wonder how many of these domestic violence, crimes are happening, or actually the technology being used against, because the amount of destruction, the amount of damage or destruction that you inflict upon yourself or others in the community, that's a very important metric in their training, research, and development. So they want to know how effective their technology is. The only way to determine if this technology can cause a person to commit a crime is to have the person actually commit the crime. Mm-hmm. So, for example, John Benet Ramsey. Remember the little girl that was murdered in Colorado? Or it's just an example. There are so many others, so many other atrocities that have happened against women and children. Yeah. And so in order to see if the technology was effective on the Las Vegas shooter to get him to shoot and kill people, they actually had to get him to shoot and kill people. If he had gone up to the top of that hotel and then he had refused to shoot and kill people, then the technology would have failed, but there's no way they could have gauged whether that was true or not until he actually killed them. Mm-hmm. You understand?
Yeah.
Notice that the same thing happened with Aaron Alexis. The same thing happened with Myron May. So they were programmed.
What about us when we don't do it? Like, because my attackers tried to enrage me for many years, seeing if I would do something violent or hurt myself, and then I didn't. And then it's like they changed the protocol to doing the opposite, to like making it when I should get angry, just shutting me, making me feel like a robot, kind of like Jose Delgado did to that bull. The bull would see the red cape, but he would inject electrostimulation to take that. Right. That's what my attackers, like, they failed in getting me to do anything violent to myself or others, which, I mean, that was a given, but they tried many years, and then it's like they switched the protocol to the other way, like to when I would have a strong emotion, suppress it and make me feel robotic,
Right. Remember, it's important to force them into different emotional states, because different information, different data regarding your memory references and motivational impulses can be accessed in different emotional states. So they don't just need anger and rage. They need joy, love, happiness. They need despair. They need despondency. They need grief and remorse. They need to in order to map out all 7 vectors of your emotional state, they need to force you into different emotional states constantly, and then only then can they remotely capture those and remotely capture, identify, and develop those emotional responses as being coherent, and then integrate them back into R&M data. So that's what I'm saying. So the conflict is going to trigger you into different. You're going to use these situational and conversational scenarios, these organized stalkers, and government perpetrators. And there's a difference between organized stalkers and government perpetrators. Organized stalkers are basically government informants, okay, mostly low level, but they're government informants turned into provocateurs. Government perpetrators are government officials turned into provocateurs, like the police. So big difference between the two. But again, they need to constantly force you into different emotional states, okay, in order to be able to. It's kind of a combination of the movie The Truman Show and The Exorcist. That's why they got to keep the victim constantly boxed in and surrounded. Okay, so as soon as you were chosen for this technology, all the available apartments, homes, hotel rooms, offices, etc., in, around, and next to you, all of them that were available were leased, were subleased, and then the hive mind teams, the surveillance teams, all the way down to the organized stalkers at the street level, they all moved in, and training, research, and development began. So people say, you know, it's my neighbors, it's my neighbors, it's my neighbors. Well, it is their neighbors, but it's much more than just their neighbors. Okay, the neighbors can be turned against you, but it's really the new neighbors. You know, it's the new neighbors. You know, it would be more accurate to say my new neighbors, not my neighbors, because some people have been. My aunt and uncle live right next door to the head of the FBI, special agent in charge for the entire state of South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a next door neighbor. He's not down the street. He's the next door neighbor. Okay.
Is he targeting them? He's
dead. He's dead.
Okay.
He's dead. I don't know how he died. But you know, they were suddenly, you know, there are 2 boxes stored 2 boxes in their house. Well, the government knows what was in one of those boxes. Okay. And so it began. They got targeted. I don't know if it's because of the boxes or what. Pretty sure. Anyway, so what happened was this: their house started getting breaking into repeatedly every day. Things started getting moved around. Objects started getting vandalized and destroyed. They stole her wedding pictures, for example. I mean, when I say plausible to absurd, plausible to the absurd. Okay, they stole her wedding pictures. Okay, what they're doing is they're provoking her and him into emotional responses, which can be remotely measured. They're basically setting them up for the system, for the technology. Okay, and their next door neighbor is special agent in charge of the Columbia FBI office, which makes him the de facto head of the FBI for the state of South Carolina. Mm-hmm. That's the next door neighbor, and all this is happening. No way that happens, and your next door neighbor's head of the FBI. That does not happen. Okay. Right. You're not. I mean, it's obviously the government. Okay, but so that's what they're doing. They're basically remember there was an activist in California who was killed. I can't remember her name, and she was against all these vaccines, and basically she was killed. She died. They hit her with a pulse of energy. What they did is they just kept targeting. You remember I'll give you a better example. You remember the doctor on ABC News? The doctor that was getting stalked, and they were coming into her house. She's a black lady, real pretty lady. And they're coming into her home, and they're rearranging furniture, and they're engaging in all these gaslighting tactics. I can't remember the video. But if we could pull it up, it would be a great example to show people how this works. Okay, so this doctor was one of the doctors at my hospital in San Diego, and she's getting targeted now. Okay, and she's one of the doctors that worked at my hospital where I went in San Diego for treatment while I was being attacked. So doctors, San Diego. Organized stalking, ABC News.
Okay, so I need to look that up. There's people in the chat because this looks like it looks like we're live. So I'm
not gonna take.
No, I know.
I'm not gonna talk.
I'm just telling them what I'm doing. So I'll tell them I'm posting it today or tomorrow. Okay, so just ABC, was it ABC or NBC?
I can't remember. Yeah, I got it. So San Diego mom thinks she's the victim of community stalking, ABC News. San Diego mom thinks she's the victim of community stalking is the title. It's ABC News.
Okay, San Diego mom. On YouTube?
Yes, on YouTube, yeah. Okay. You see it?
No, I'm pulling it up right now. Hold on 1 second.
And this lady, this doctor of internal medicine, is a doctor that worked at the hospital that I was going to in San Diego. And as I'm being targeted and attacked in California, she's one of the doctors that works there.
Okay.
And now she's making the world news.
Is it just
So
recently
just
that she?
type in Dr. San Diego organized stalking news.
Okay.
Dr.
Right.
San Diego organized stalking news.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll just send you the link. Hold on, I'll just send you the link.
Okay.
And you might not.
Look,
You might be.
It just takes a while for my screens to come up because my computer's running slow. So Dr. San Diego stalking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stalking. Okay.
Okay, so I just sent you the link.
It was like 8 years ago. San Diego mom thinks she's the victim of community stalking.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Show the people. Show it on your screen.
Okay. Let me screen share so you can see it too. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Some screen recording.
This was the doctors that I was going to, and the hospital I was going to. And it's a small hospital. It's not a big one. It's more like a clinic. It's a clinic. It wasn't even really a hospital. It was a clinic. I'm sorry. It was
It's
not
the
a
thing
hospital.
nightmares are made of.
You
You know, it's so creepy that
clinic.
I decided to have a.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
It's just a big clinic. So I sent you the link.
Okay.
If you go to your email, you can pull it up.
Okay. No, yeah, I got it. I got it on YouTube. I just had to share the screen real quick. All right.
Okay, so we're going to let this play through all the way through, and then we're going to go back and talk about it, okay?
Okay.
This is perfect.
It's the thing nightmares are made of.
You know, it's so creepy that I decided to have a bolt put on the door, and I'm having my son sleep in here with me.
Creepy only begins to describe it.
It's like an alternate reality, really.
When she'd get home from work, Fasika Tafara started noticing things out of place in her
They
home.
were just all open, but what was weird is, so for example, they were open like this, but they were all at the same level.
First, the windows, then lights turned on, her cabinets pulled out.
It's intended to let me know that somebody has been here, essentially, right? So all of the drawers have been pulled out. And
Something strange every single day for almost the past month. She finally realized someone has been coming inside.
are people following me? And then I started to wonder also, well, how do they know when I'm here and when I'm not here?
Then Tafara found this small camera in her 11-year-old son's bedroom. So she took to the internet and started digging. What she found? Something called community or gang stalking. It's an eerie practice aimed at your psyche to make you almost feel like you're going crazy.
It's spooky, and my understanding is that if this is in fact what it is, it can go on for years, you know?
Only you're not. Tafara left her phone recording audio at her house. Listen, you can hear what sounds like people rummaging around. On one, you can hear what sounds like drilling.
So this hole here has been cut into the attic space.
Tafara says detectives have been to the house.
It's kind of like, you know, if it happens again, call us, but there's not much we can do.
Something that makes this even more terrifying.
All right, stop it.
Let me ask you something. Do you want to make money online? Do this. Swipe
1 second.
Now go back.
left on affiliate marketing.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
No, you got to go back to the video.
Okay. It's on the video.
You're one video ahead now.
It's on the video.
Okay. Okay. Now, I want you to start playing it from the beginning.
It's
and
the
I'm gonna
thing
tell you when to
nightmares
stop,
are made of.
okay?
You know, it's so
Can
creepy
we start
that I
playing from the
decided to.
beginning? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
This is before you start playing. Hold on. Before you start playing, her name is Dr. Fasika Tafara. It's F-A-C-I-K-A Tafara, which is T-A-R-F-A-R-A, I think. She's a doctor of internal medicine at the clinic in San Diego where I was being treated. So, you know, this is doctor. I would have walked past this doctor I don't know how many times, you know. And of course, that I was being targeted before she was, okay? And now she's getting targeted, okay? So I don't know what's going on there, but the point is, I'm going to walk you through this video, and I'm going to tell you to stop. And when I say stop, I'm going to explain how the stalking and the gaslighting is used to map out the victim's memory and thought process. Go ahead.
Okay.
Start.
It's the thing nightmares are made of.
You know, it's so creepy that I decided to have a bolt put on the door, and I'm having my son sleep in here with me.
Creepy only begins to describe it.
It's like an alternate reality, really.
When she'd get home from work, Fasika Tafara started noticing things out of place in her
You know,
home.
they were just all open, but what was weird is, so for example, they were open like this, but they were all at the same level.
First, the windows, then lights
Stop.
turned on.
Okay, what they're doing, and this is when the organized talking begins, when the person begins to notice it. Okay, what they're doing is they're engaging in situational and conversational scenarios to force the victim into physical and psychological trauma. Remember, I said they're using physical and psychological trauma to map out and reverse engineer the sensory and neural pathways of the victim's brain and central nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
These scripted mind games. These scripted mind games are called, it's not just gaslighting, okay? These are situational and conversational scenarios to do just that. So they're forcing her into physical and psychological trauma. They're mapping out her brain. The hive mind teams have moved close. They're not far away, okay? Now it can probably be done without a localized neural sensor system. But back when I was first being targeted, they had to use a localized neural sensor system. And that localized neural sensor system is basically a hive mind team member, a psychic soldier, the cognitive researcher, using virtual and augmented interfaces. He just gets close to her next door or down the street within 300 yards, and he's using virtual and augmented interfaces. He's using the supercomputer. He's interfacing with the supercomputer, and he's basically pulling up all these screens in his mind. Okay, and that's how he's gauging so the first screen in his mind, in his visual field, in his third eye, in his visual workspace, will be the brainwaves of Dr. Fasika Tafara. The second screen in that virtual augmented reality will be a parallel screen of the brainwaves of the cognitive researcher. Okay, and then a third drop-down screen, okay, in that virtual augmented reality that he's pulling up, okay, the cognitive researcher's pulling up, will be a combination of Dr. Fasika Tafara's brainwaves and his own brainwaves, the cognitive researcher's brainwaves. So you have three screens in that augmented virtual reality that this cognitive researcher is pulling up by manipulating his own visual cortex with streams of energy. Remember, if you took LSD back when you were a kid, I never took LSD, but you could actually make your brain see this augmented reality. You would start to see visual and verbal sequences that weren't there. You see dragons and birds and whatever. That was done just by using LSD, and that's why they started using LSD at first. Okay, they switched from LSD. They can do that now by manipulating their brainwaves with streams of energy. They can pull up all these images, text, symbols, screens, whatever they need to pull up. So the cognitive researcher can sit right down next to you and using a stream of energy can manipulate his own brain waves, where he's able to use the visual workspace in his mind. It's the Hindus and the Buddhists call it the third eye. It's not the third eye. It's the visual workspace in the human mind. And he's able to pull up all these screens that only he can see. Okay, and so what's happening right here with Fasika Tafara is it's just getting started. They're using trauma to create a cognitive model. They're forcing her into physical and psychological trauma to map out the sensory and neural pathways of her brain and central nervous system. I tried to reach her, I couldn't get to her. Okay, if I could have got her quickly, I could have probably saved her. Okay, I couldn't get to her.
I wonder if she's being hit by weapons and knows she's being hit by weapons now. You know, in remote neural manipulated. I wonder if she knows.
Well, she's probably a high-profile target because of her education level. Mm-hmm. Okay, so she'd be a lifelong target, a lifelong study. Okay, but at regular intervals, there will be severe trauma induced into her life. She'll lose her job, she'll lose her house, she'll lose her kids. Child Protective Services will come and take them away. You know, she'll be attacked, beaten up, or robbed. All these things will happen to her at regular intervals. At regular intervals, these terrible traumatic experiences will keep occurring throughout her life. And that's because they're using that trauma to map her brain, you see? Physical, psychological trauma. Press play, keep going.
Her cabinets pulled out.
It's intended to let me know that somebody has been here, essentially, right? So all of the drawers have been pulled out. And
Something strange every single day for almost the past month. She finally realized someone has been coming inside.
are people following me? And then I started to wonder also, well, how do they know when I'm here and when I'm not here?
Then Tafara found this small camera in her 11-year-old son's bedroom. So she took to the internet and started digging.
They wanted her to find that camera, or she would never have found it. They don't even use those kind of cameras, man. They use sophisticated and advanced cameras you can't even see, okay? And now they don't even use cameras. They use a process called telemetry. So the supercomputer bounces microwaves off every object in your house. The supercomputer, using various software, is able to produce a 3D in living color 3D model of you and everything inside your house and everything that's happening inside your house. It's called telemetry. It just uses microwaves and bounce it off everything in your house, and in real, true life, living color, they can create a model of you and everything you're doing inside the house. Okay, they don't use big old cameras as big as a brick. That's meant for her to find. She's meant to find that. Okay, that's psychological trauma. Okay, they're trying to deliberately. What happened as soon as she was chosen, as soon as Dr. Fasika Tafara was chosen, okay, she every available home, every available office, every available hotel room in and around her area was leased and subleased. Then they all moved in. The hive mind teams, the surveillance teams, the organized stalkers. Okay, I know exactly where her neighborhood is. It's within walking distance from where I used to live. That house. I know exactly where she works. That was my clinic that I went to for medical treatment before I filed a lawsuit against them, and they wouldn't see me anymore.
You see, I think it's just because so many people are getting targeted. Like in California.
Well, her name is Dr. Fasika Tafara. Yeah. I mean, they have to keep. They're scaling the technology up for everyone. All 324 million Americans. So that's the problem. That's the problem we have now. That's why you're seeing them come out and admit these direct energy attacks are happening. And they're saying it's the Russians and the Chinese. No, it's not. It's the Americans. But they got to divert attention away from themselves. That's called indirection.
It's Russia, China, America, Israel.
Of course.
Everyone.
Of course, but it's not the Russians attacking Dr. Fasika Tafara.
Right.
It's not the Russians attacking you and me. I've been to Russia, man. I walked down the streets of St. Petersburg, Russia. I sent a postcard to my aunt, the one who's targeted, okay, in Columbia, South Carolina. I sent a postcard to her at the post office in St. Petersburg, Russia, downtown, okay, in St. Petersburg, Russia. I sent a postcard to her from there, and she got that postcard, okay? So it's not the Chinese that are targeting Dr. Fasika Tafara. It's the Americans. It's the American intelligence agencies, okay? Training, research, and development in artificial superintelligence technologies, okay? They're by re-engineering, by reverse engineering the human mind. Okay, that's how they're doing it. Okay.
Can I just ask you, I don't want to bring you too far off track, but just a quick question. Why do you think those government agents, CIA agents posing as embassy workers, then the CIA agent in Moscow, do you think those are operational, where they know those people are agents and they want them out of their country? What do you think is the reason that they're hitting those governmental?
That's been going on for decades, man. It's just not coming to light, right? I mean, remember back in the 1960s, the Russians. The woodpecker files, the Russians were hitting the American embassy personnel with microwaves, and they were all developing cancer. Remember, in the 1960s? Well, you can Google it if you want to.
Yeah,
but
I remember.
that's been going on since the 1960s, and they've been targeting not just diplomatic personnel. They're targeting soldiers. They're targeting
But do you
agents.
think that it's increased the operational use of these weapons and remote neural monitoring? Do you think it's increased in the
Of course,
Right.
they're scaling up for the whole world, but here the industrial world. But here's the point. This is so crucial that you hear what I'm about to tell you. If you don't remember anything else I say in this interview, you need to remember these words, and so do your listeners. The continued refinement of existing technologies.
Mhm.
4 words, 5 words, okay?
I agree.
Continued refinement of existing technologies. They listen. The Chinese are going to use human experimentees. The Russians are going to use human experimentees, and the Americans are going to use human experimentees because they have to. You can't use animals for artificial superintelligence training, research, and development. You can't use animals to re-engineer, reverse engineer the human mind. It's not possible.
Mhm.
They have to use real people. Okay. Okay, so now what I want to get into here is how families are targeted, because her child is being targeted. Notice the camera that is in her hand is about as big as her hand. They don't use those cameras.
Mhm.
Okay, that's all. That's gaslighting.
Well,
She's
Brian,
mystifying
this
the
is
camera.
so they can't take like
Let's
say,
just
say
let's
have,
just let's
but
just finish playing this video. We're almost done.
but can I just ask you real quick because I have a webcam, iPhone cam and everything like that. Can they take those cameras and make a more precise target out of us? Like so they're using the radar and
Yes.
stuff like that. Did they use the
When
regular
you say they,
the
when
attackers?
you say they, who are
Our
you talking?
our human attackers,
No, no, no,
the
no, 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 no,
automated
no, no, no,
systems,
no.
the human attackers
Right,
with the
right,
automated
right.
systems.
No, 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 no. Okay, don't confuse the two, because they'll manually inject at regular intervals. But it's
Hmm.
almost all of it. 99% of everything is done by a supercomputer. The supercomputer believes it's a human. It believes it's a person. It has emotions. It has feelings. It senses. It has a perception. It perceives how you feel about it, how you think about it. Okay, it actually believes it's a real person. Okay,
Hmm.
it's an exascale conscious supercomputer with a will, intellect, and emotion of its own. Okay, and what it does is it hijacks all your smart devices. I'm not just talking about your computer, your laptop, your tablet, your smartphone. I'm talking about your TV, your microwave oven, the smart meter on your home, everything, all your smart devices. The computer chip in your car. Okay, it hijacks all of that. Okay, and then from all of that, it begins to build a profile of your daily activities. Okay, it begins to profile how you function and how you survive. Okay, that's going on 24/7. So it's a supercomputer that's targeting all those smart devices. It's not a person.
Hmm.
Okay, now these hive mind members, these cognitive researchers, can and do manually inject at regular intervals. That's what they do. Okay, but it's almost all of it's a supercomputer. Now this gets really sadistic and evil. People don't realize that what this video is, how sadistically evil it is. Push play.
Okay, let me get to it.
Go back
She
about.
found something called community or gang stalking. It's an eerie
Go
practice
back just a
aimed at
little
your
bit
psyche
to the
to make
camera.
you almost
Go back to that little camera.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's go there.
Go a little more. There it is.
Right there, that
Okay,
little
look how
camera.
big that camera is.
Hmm.
Do you think that they use cameras like that for surveillance? I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, they
That's
don't.
that's gaslighting.
I agree.
That's gaslighting.
I
They're
agree.
provoking her into emotional responses, which a supercomputer can remotely measure and integrate back into R&M data. If they didn't want her to hear them walking around in her house, she would never know that they were. They wanted her to hear those footsteps. They wanted her to hear the sound of a drill. Okay? All that's gaslighting. Okay? They're using physical and psychological trauma against her to map out and reverse engineer the sensory and neural pathways of Dr. PSYOPS, brain and central nervous system. Okay, but here's the point. Where did they find that camera? They found that camera in her son's room. They're going after the child to get to her. You see, there are always more than one target involved here because they cannot allow the victim to engage in a random or chaotic pattern of conversations and situations with anyone. It disrupts their technology by disrupting the verification process. So if she's having a constant daily, any type of regular conversation she's having with anyone, they got to get that person's either got to be made a government informant or they got to become a victim of the technology. Okay, so and this is for every family member, every family and the friends of a targeted individual. If they don't turn on you and become a government informant, in other words, if the government makes the decision, not them. They're not offered the, well, we'll give you a choice. You can become our informant or we're going to make you a mind control victim. It doesn't work that way. The government determines whether or not this person can be turned against you.
Do you
if it's
think
someone that they think, a family member that loves you,
right? Do you think
if it's a family member they think that loves you that can't be turned against you, then what they're going to do is they're going to turn them into a mind control victim. So they're targeting the child now. Now she's the primary target. This is very important. I'm not just making these words up. These are called secondary targets. They have primary, secondary, and tertiary targets. So she's the primary target. Her family members, the child here, is the secondary target, and her coworkers and friends are the tertiary targets. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
Small camera in her 11-year-old son's bedroom. So she took to the internet and started digging. What she found? Something called community or gang stalking. It's an eerie practice aimed at your psyche to make you almost feel like you're going crazy.
It's spooky, and my understanding is that if this is in fact what it is, it can go on for years, you know.
Only you're not. Tafara left her phone recording audio at her house. Listen, you can hear what sounds like people rummaging around. On one, you can hear what sounds like drilling.
So this hole here has been cut into the attic space.
Tafara says detectives have been to the house.
Why do you think they were drilling that hole into the attic space, Brian?
Well, they wanted her to hear that. I mean, it's all gaslighting, okay? Dr. Fasika Tafara, her name is F-A-C-I-K-A, Fasika. Her last name is Tafara, T-A-F-A-R-A. She's an MD, she's an internal medicine doctor, and her address is 1809
you
National
can't do that.
Ave.
No, you can't do that. You can't put in people's information. No. You can't put people's information out online like that. You can't put their first and last name in there. You can't do it.
Her name, and then just showed her. They just showed her street and her house.
Yeah, but you just can't. It's doxing. It's called doxing. Like if you put somebody's information out online, it's called doxing. This is like from a news report. You can't put their information out. I don't know why you'd want to put her information out, Brian. You there? Did you get cut off? Hello? Okay, hold on. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to remove this. Here he is. Here's Brian. Hey, Brian.
Yeah, hey. So listen, I'm not doing anything they didn't just do on the news bulletin. They just gave her name. They just gave her address and her street number.
No.
Okay, anyway, so they just gave her information. Anybody in San Diego can look her up. Okay,
that's fine.
So I'm not doing anything illegal. All right.
It's doxing.
So just
if you
calm
do
down,
it,
man.
it's
yeah.
No, I'm calm. It's doxing. If you give somebody's like their full name, like if it's on a news report, I guess that's fine, and we're just showing it, but you can't say it. I'm sure of it, man. But let's just move on. Let's just move on.
Well, okay, so that's a good example of what they do to victims. So all the trauma she's going through, all the physical and psychological trauma, the targeting of her children, the targeting of her and all of her property, that's gaslighting. That's scripted mind games that are designed. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
To force her into physical and psychological trauma, to map out those sensory and neural pathways of her brain and central nervous system to turn her into a victim. But in the process, her child's going to become a victim too. You see how sad it is? But they don't care because they're scaling themselves for everything.
I felt how sad it is because my family would not turn against me, and my dad's been targeted, my mom's been targeted, my aunt's been targeted, my brother's been targeted, and I'm not sure about my grandma. But I wonder, this is what I wonder.
Yeah.
They use surveillance because they're remote neural monitoring us when we're with our family or friends or whatever. Do they remote neural monitor all of them first to see what's in their head and to see if they could get them to be perps against us? Do you think they use remote neural monitoring or just surveillance from us to make that decision?
Every one of them they're all monitored in real time. Okay, so for example, an exascale supercomputer is capable of 1 billion. I didn't say million, I said billion.
Mm-hmm.
Times 1 billion calculations per second. So get that in your head, okay? Get that in your head. 1 billion times 1 billion. Not 1 billion. 1 billion times 1 billion calculations per second. So they don't need many of these supercomputers to streamline and target all the victims of this technology. It's just not necessary. Okay, so the supercomputer this exascale system of remote neural networks is the one targeting all your family members at the same time. They're all being remote neural monitored, but because they're secondary targets or tertiary targets, they're not being traumatized like you are. You're the primary target.
But at a certain point, it could become traumatic targeting, to your family.
And in fact, probably will be because the children are. I mean, this is long-term research, training, research, and development. So the children can also expect their lives to be turned upside down and crushed, and their hopes and dreams destroyed, and their lives snuffed out. It's very evil to even think about, but that is the truth. Yeah. That's why I don't talk to any family. That's why I don't make any friends. I don't even talk to pastors, man, because they were going to pastors, and they were telling the pastors I don't know what they were telling the pastors. I can only think and imagine. But in any event, they were trying to.
How do we live life? I mean, we have to stay away from our families. We have to stay, and that just happened with me recently. A targeted individual that I was talking to, their targeting wasn't at the intense level as mine was, but when we started texting, their targeting immediately skyrocketed and got worse. It was because and then it's like we kind of had to stop talking, That's
well, if your family's already targeted before you even knew, then you can keep talking to them. Okay, if your wife or kids, before you knew, you're married, you can't just walk away from your wife and kids. They depend on you. Okay, but knowing ahead of time, and then going into a relationship and not telling a person and having them be tortured and murdered because they thought you were a nice person and you were cute and they were attracted to you. That's horrific. That's sadistic. You can't do that, okay?
But it's like should it be our responsibility to take on, like, I mean, say I'm not, but just in theory, like, I want to date somebody that lives in Baton Rouge and they're not targeted, and so I have to say, well, it's my fault. If I ever get in contact with them, they're going to be targeted or they're going to become a perp, so I just have to stay away from everybody. I mean, that's so terrible.
It's so terrible, but it's the truth. In order to protect people, I will not engage any Christian brother or sister in conversation. I go to church, and when I go to church, I have to wear special earplugs. I have to wear earplugs or earphones, special earphones now because my hearing is so damaged. I can't go to church now just to listen. But when I'm there, I won't talk to anyone, and if I'm engaged, I keep the conversation short and sweet. I stay away from people for their protection. For their protection. I don't talk to any of my family. I don't try to contact them. And I don't want them to contact me for their protection. Okay? And that's the way it has to be. I mean, if you're going to have a relationship with someone, it would have to be another targeted individual. And there are not that many female targeted individuals in Baton Rouge, I imagine. I don't know how many people in your city are targeted, but, there are obviously targeted people in Baton Rouge. I just don't know who they are.
And it's true because, I mean, they almost killed my father. Just me talking to my mom and dad about this and being around them, it's like they started in on my dad. The day after my 33rd birthday, the high-pitched sound started in his inner ears. He had horrible headaches, and his blood-brain barrier had a rupture in it, an aneurysm. And it's like, I'm wondering, like, how I haven't had an aneurysm yet. And then he had the aneurysm, had a 33% chance of survival. So there's 33. After my 33rd birthday, he had a 33% chance of survival, and then they keep experimenting on him after he rehabilitates, learns how to talk, eat, walk, use the bathroom again.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
the point at which
should have stayed away from him. I should have just if I would have known, I would have stayed. I would have ran away from my family. I would have. If I would have known what would have happened, I would have. Yeah, I would have.
The point at which the trauma-based mind control victim suffers congestive heart failure, stroke, adrenaline damage, artificially induced heart disease, etc., etc. In all of that, the point at which that happens, congestive heart failure, stroke, etc., that's an important metric in their training, research, and development of how to more effectively assassinate and kill people with this silent, slow kill technology. Remember, they're going to use this on the entire human race. They're going to bring down the population. This is a eugenics program. They're going to depopulate the world with this technology. So in order to learn how to do that, how to lower at a level where people won't become too suspicious, start killing people off with this technology, they gotta do the training, research, and development first. So to slow kill billions of people, they got to figure out, the technology first, the training, research, and development behind it. They got to lower the population drastically.
But how are they going to do with everything coming out like it is? How are they just going to continue to do it without people's knowledge? Aren't they going to have the public's knowledge and still use these technologies for like smart cities and people telekinetically talking to each other and turning on their computer and their lights with their brain? Interacting with their smart home and stuff like that. I mean, like, since everything's coming out, it seems like they want the public to have these technologies inside of them, right, and use them on them. Do you think that it's going to become more known and people are just going to use it anyway? You know what I'm saying?
In Nazi Germany, this is a perfect example, okay? In Nazi Germany, they were killing, they say 6 million Jews, but I mean they killed more than just Jews. I've been to those Flossenburg, to the camp. I've been to Germany so many times I can't count. I can't count the times I've been to Germany. Okay, and I used to live there, and I've been to these concentration camps. One was called Flossenburg, and they were killing more people than just Jews. 6 million Jews. Okay, but they were killing anyone and everyone, mentally ill, the people that were mentally disabled, they were killing them. They were killing Russians. They were killing captured prisoners. I mean, they're telling how many people died in those camps. Okay, more than 6 million. Okay, but the point is, all of that was going on with the full knowledge of the public. The German public even participated and helped the German government capture the Jews and have them thrown into these concentration camps, knowing they would be murdered. The same thing's happening to targeted individuals today. People that are engaging in these gangs, these low-level government informants, okay, on the street that surround you every day to harass you, okay. They're told maybe you're a bad person or whatever. There's some slander or there's other misinformation going on in the community against you. But the point is, they know it's wrong. They know it's wrong, but they didn't do anything to stop it. They knew it was wrong in Nazi Germany. They not only helped, but they didn't do anything to stop it. And they're not going to do anything to stop it here in the 21st century because people care about themselves. The people, listen, unless they're true born-again Christians, which that's about 5% of the visible church, okay, if you ask any true man of God, only a fraction, a remnant of the visible church that profess to be Christians are truly saved. Okay, of the others are just going to do exactly what they've always done throughout history. There's never this has always happened. The public coalesces to the rules and the laws of the government who was ever in place, whether it's Babylon, whether it's Persia, whether it's Assyria, whether it's Greece, Rome, or whomever, okay? It's never changed. It's always been the same, and it continues. It will always be the same. You'll expect no help. You'll receive no help from the public. They will not help you. They're not only part of the paradigm against you. Okay, they're not only looking out for themselves. They're going to be used against you. Try the next video now where Morpheus. Use the next video now where Morpheus is talking to Neo on the sidewalk about the public at large.
Yeah, I will. Give me a second. I just want to go grab something. I got to put something on my stomach. I haven't eaten today, so I'm going to pull that up. Just give me 1 second. Like, literally 1 second.
So for those of you who are still watching, the way it happens is the supercomputer sends a signal to a tower, a satellite, or mobile platform. This signal within this stream of energy contains a bidirectional stream of energy, contains a hidden carrier frequency. A hidden carrier frequency in that signal is what they're targeting you with. So supercomputer sends a signal to a tower, a satellite, or a mobile platform, and then the tower, satellite, or mobile platform relays the signal to you, the digital receiver. Mm-hmm. Your brain has been digitalized.
And so is it only nanotechnology that goes past the blood-brain barrier, or do you think they have newer stuff? Do you think they have liquids that go past the blood-brain barrier? That they can actually, that will turn your brain into a dirty circuit?
I don't know. Are you able to pull up that video?
Yeah. Here it is.
I'm sure they do. I don't profess to know.
Let me get the sound.
You have that video?
Yeah. Let me get the sound. It just takes a little while to pull up. And I want to make sure there's sound with it, too. Okay, here we go.
So while you're doing that, while you're trying to pull up, I'll just keep talking.
Okay.
So basically, people need to understand that only the victim of SWORD. Here we go.
No, keep going. Okay.
Yeah, only the victim, the trauma-based mind control victim.
Here we go, Brian.
Okay, go ahead. Just go ahead and use this one. Yeah. Okay. Now this isn't the video I asked for, but we'll use this one.
My name's Richard.
Come on.
You need a new computer, man.
Well, I think it's my attackers. They slow it down. Like when I'm trying to show screens and stuff, they'll just slow it so it freezes. I mean, I have a ton of space left. I've got like 4 gigabytes of RAM. Here we go. Come on. Do this.
So only the victim of SWORD, there we go. Okay. The victim of SWORD's stream of energy or feels its effects. Only the victim, the trauma-based mind control victim, absorbs the energy or feels its effects, because only the victim possesses that specific brainwave signature which the stream of energy is tuned to. So others who are sitting in the same room or standing in the same room with you, the stream of energy just passes right through it around them, and they're unaware. But the victim will absorb the stream of energy, and the victim will absorb the pain and the trauma. Okay, the victim's ears will begin to ring, and head ears will pulsate in pain and other physical symptoms of pain and trauma, because only he or only she has that specific brainwave signature for that stream of energy. Can you pull it up or not? Or
yeah, I'm getting it pulled up. Hold on.
Go to the next video then. Just skip that video. Go to the next video. The one with Morpheus talking to Neo on the sidewalk.
Okay, we can come back to that one. Okay. While those windows are sitting there, my attackers do something. See, they play it.
Are the
when
people
I
who
put
make
it on
sure things
pause.
happen according to plan.
Wait,
My name's
that's
Richard.
the other video.
So if people have a hard time understanding.
This is my attackers, dude. They're playing around. They stop the video,
So-
and then when I turn it off, they start playing it again.
So while you're doing that, I'll just keep talking while you're trying to pull that video up.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say is that other people around the victim do not absorb the stream of energy. They don't feel its effects because they do not possess that specific brainwave signature that the stream of energy is tuned into. So the stream of energy just flows through and around everyone else in the room.
Okay, here we go, Brian. Explain.
But
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around.
Yeah, that's my attackers just stopping it.
so the matrix is a system. I don't think it's your attackers. I think it's just your computer.
No.
So the
What do you see,
matrix is a
businessmen,
system.
teachers,
wrong.
lawyers,
You want me to keep playing it?
Yeah, go ahead.
carpenters, the very minds of the people.
So basically, he's telling Neo the public at large is the enemy of targeted individuals, okay? Of those who are trying to expose this, of the truthers, of the Christians, the people who are trying to expose these atrocities won't find any help from the public at large. Because they're part of the paradigm. And so people have a hard time understanding what I'm saying about the stream of only the victim absorbs the stream of energy or feels its effects. If you just take two cell phones and you set them on a table next to each other, anyone can do this experiment, okay? And you set those two cell phones on a table next to each other, okay? And then you take a third cell phone and you dial a specific number. Only one. Just forget about it. Just forget about it. Let it go. Don't let it keep distracting our conversation.
Okay.
Just X out of it. So if you take two cell phones and you place them next to each other on the table, and then you take a third cell phone and you dial a specific number, okay? Only one of the cell phones on the table is going to ring because only that phone possesses that specific resonance frequency for that specific number, okay? The stream of microwaves that pinged off the cell phone tower passed right through both phones, both cell phones on the table, okay? But only one phone absorbed the stream of energy or field or registered its effects. So if you want to try to explain this to people, just take two cell phones, place them on the table next to each other, and then take a third cell phone and dial a specific number. Okay, when only one phone rings, then you can see how only the victim absorbs the stream of energy or feels its effects, because only the victim possesses that brainwave signature, that specific resonance frequency for that number, that specific algorithm. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So just X out of it. Just forget about the video. All that's happening is people are getting distracted.
Okay.
So it's not going to work. Yeah. So basically, what you have to realize is that it's a game. It's one deadly game of deception and manipulation. That's it, from start to finish, from life to death. Okay, it's a game, and it's a game of eugenics. Okay, it's basically they use a lot of different models and principles, and if you were to think of it this way, it's a really simple definition. Do you remember back when we were kids, you could go to the toy store and you could buy a 10,000 piece jigsaw puzzle?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you could it would take you weeks and months to assemble that puzzle, but eventually you would get it all put together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, by matching different colors and different objects in the picture, you would be able to figure out where each piece went. And as the puzzle was slowly completed, the process of figuring out where each piece went would speed up.
Yeah.
So you would be able to begin to complete the puzzle faster and faster the further along you got. Okay? Well, that's what they're doing with mind control victims. They're basically assembling a puzzle of their brain. Okay? Instead of a 10,000 piece puzzle, think of a 100 million piece puzzle. That's why they have to use supercomputers. Okay? So you have 100 million neurons in your brain. Well, they're basically putting a puzzle together. They're building a cognitive model of your brain. And it's similar to that's a real simple definition of what they're doing. But so each response is a piece of the puzzle. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
It's a game, just like that 10,000 piece jigsaw puzzle was a game. What they're doing to their victims is a game, a deadly game. Okay, but they use specific models of deception and manipulation to achieve this. The Occam razor principle is a really good explanation of what they're doing to discredit their victims. Occam razor basically provides that the simplest answer is always the truth. The simplest explanation is always the best explanation. So in order to discredit a person, or even a group of people, like targeted individuals, all a person need do is engage in a sufficiently complex scheme or game of harassment. And because the more complicated the truth, the less the likelihood of belief by the ordinary person. The complexity of that harassment will generally be enough to cause most people to turn away in disbelief. So it's called the Occam razor principle. Okay.
But as the
So
Overton window shifts in society, I mean, Occam's razor really is false. Like the Occam's razor principle is false because usually in society you have reality stranger than fiction. You know, people just don't understand reality. So I think that the Occam's razor principle is completely false. You know.
Well, it's just whether it's true or false, they still use it.
Yeah.
The point.
Right.
The point is this. The point is this. The street theater, the situational and conversational scenarios, are designed in such a way as to appear common, ordinary, and expected to the casual observer. So when the victim finally responds, lashes out against the minor or severe repetitive attacks, when the victim finally responds to the minor or severe daily social aggressions, which are happening 100 times a day, these daily minor severe minor or severe social aggressions, okay, that are happening 100 times a day.
I found this on the web.
The delusional factor or the mentally unstable factor is reinforced. It's reinforced. So it's repetitive reinforcement. Remember? Mm-hmm. Patterns. Okay? So even their organized stalking is based on patterns. They just keep using the same stimulus, the same stalking, okay, until the minor social aggression or the severe social aggression gets you to lash out in a rage or whatever, or to complain that it's happening. And then at that point, the delusional or mentally unstable depiction of the targeted individual is reinforced through repetitive reinforcement. You see?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's Occam razor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's Occam razor.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's a minor social aggression or a severe social aggression, what matters is that it's happening 100 times a day. But the casual observer doesn't see that. He only sees it happening, right there at that moment. So when you lash out at it, it seems like you're overreacting.
Right.
You see, and that's how they reinforce through repetitive reinforcement the mentally unstable, the delusional depiction, the schizophrenic depiction.
Like I'll tell you one, Brian. I'll tell you one. I have these things to charge my Schumann resonators, and they'll break into my condo and just steal one of these because I have to I have to order the whole Schumann resonator to get the charger. And I can get a different charger and stuff, but they'll just to let me know they came in, they'll just steal one of these. They've done stuff like that. Yeah.
Gaslighting. Just like they were doing the doctor. Mm-hmm. Just like they were doing Dr. Tafara, yeah.
And it's like if I tell
So
a cop that,
that's
like,
a
oh,
very important.
somebody broke into my place and stole like a little charger like this. The policeman's not going to believe me. He's going to be like, "Well, you just lost it. You know, you lost the charger somewhere."
Right,
You know.
plausible to the absurd. Their tactics. That's why their tactics range from the plausible to the absolutely absurd. Remember, I told you they put a pair of purple panties in my luggage.
Mm-hmm.
Now try explaining that to the police.
Yeah.
You know, my aunt had her wedding picture stolen. Try explaining that to the police. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
I mean that's what. So these minor or these severe social aggressions each day are designed to appear just that normal, ordinary. You know, because a certain degree of friction. I learned this in law school. A certain degree of friction is allowable in society between people because society just couldn't function any other way. You can't you can't sue somebody for every little thing they do. You know, it's just it doesn't work that way. So a
Right.
certain degree of friction, a certain degree. That's why there's simple battery and there's these small misdemeanor charges. But even then, I mean, that doesn't make them a cause of action in court because the courts realize that they have to allow for a certain degree of friction between people.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, society just couldn't function. People couldn't survive. It just would stop. It just would grind to a halt.
Well, I'll tell you what.
That's
I
what
mean,
they.
everybody's so
That's
sue
what they
happy.
do. They
If
take
somebody
it. They
even,
take.
Go ahead.
They take advantage of that. They take advantage of that allowed degree of friction between people, and they amplify it. Okay, and they do it in such a way that the casual observer thinks it's just common, ordinary, and expected.
But if a
It's
gang
allowable.
stalker hits us physically, we can sue the hell out of them. Like my gang stalkers don't
This,
hit me. Like they walk around me, they do the same time thing. But if I had a gang stalker come up to me
even
and
that.
push me on the ground, I'd
Yeah.
sue them for everything that they had if they laid hands on me. You can do
Look,
that.
man, I've been beaten so badly by these stalkers. You can't sue them. I'm
Why
trying to sue
not?
them.
Why didn't you sue them?
I'm trying to tell you why.
No, I was just
Okay.
asking.
So what I'm saying is I've been beaten up. I have paralytic shoulder injury, right paralytic shoulder injury.
Mm-hmm.
I have left dislocated shoulder. I have increased spinal damage at the lumbar level, fractured ankle. I mean, that's just from physical violence. Okay. That's not even the slightest touch of anger is a battery, is a cause of action. The slightest touch of anger, that's a battery under the law.
Mm-hmm.
But assault is not battery. The battery is not assault. Assault is simply deliberately placing a person in the immediate fear for their physical safety. So these organized stalkers could be sued on that alone. But the problem is this: they control the courts.
Mm-hmm.
I had that person that attacked me arrested. One of the peaceful people that attacked me just walked up and punched me in the face for no reason at Old Town Trolley Station in San Diego, California. I had them arrest him. I pressed charges against him. The DA released him like days later. There won't be any charges filed against him. They're not going to allow you to take advantage of the courts. Okay, they're not going to allow you to expose their atrocities. Okay, it's not going to happen.
Right.
They're just the same way they're not going to allow you to go into a hospital and say that this is what's happening to me. They're going to throw you in a mental institution because it's all medical COINTELPRO. They're not going to allow overlapping patterns of medical evidence to begin developing between millions of targeted individuals. But that would mathematically prove that these tactics are happening. Well, now the cat's out.
I think it is happening though, because Dr. Hoffer is doing hearing tests for targeted individuals. He told me he knows that I'm being hit with directed energy weapons, so it's like a few doctors, in our country are starting to actually do testing.
Very few independent doctors will stand up. Now, there
Okay,
are.
I got a question. Walter Reed Hospital, where doctors are looking at all these governmental agents or whatever, and they're
that were attacked by Russia, that were attacked by China. Yeah, they could get help. not the ones that are claiming they're being attacked by the Americans. They're not going to get any help.
Do you,
Okay? Now listen, they're allowing all of that. The intelligence agencies, the CIA, the DIA, etc., are allowing that to divert attention away from them. They're saying, look, it's the Russians that are attacking people. You know, I was in Russia, and it was the only country that I was not attacking. The CIA stopped attacking me in Russia. Every other country, even China, I was attacked with directed energy. Okay? And in Russia, the stalking and the directed energy attack stopped immediately.
Okay, I thought that when you went to Russia, you weren't gang stalked, but you still got some weapon attacks. But they both.
No, I did. I got them the first day. They attacked me the first day. Then I cried out on social media that it was happening, and they stopped attacking me immediately.
Okay.
Okay. Russians have the same technology. They can do the same thing to the Americans on American soil. So the Americans don't play that game with the Russians.
Well, think about this, Brian. That CIA agent that got hit in Moscow, he comes back to America. He's still having headaches. So Russia's still hooked in to that CIA agent as he goes and gets medical help and goes to whatever top secret things that he's going to.
And they will build on that, and they will blow that up, and they will develop that. And the government talking points propaganda machine, the liberal so-called mainstream media will play the game so that everybody thinks it's the Russians. Right. Okay, and when in fact almost everybody that's being targeted in America is being targeted by the American government for training, research, and development.
I see the finger pointing and the lies as a stall tactic. I don't think they can ever just completely keep the lie going that, oh, it's all Russia. I think it's just stalling so they can keep on experimenting, and they know that it's going to end at a certain point in time, but they're just like, okay, well, we need to stall. We need to stall this so we can keep collecting data, and then I don't think they're going to care when they have to wrap up the programs. They're just going to be like...
Right, the truth goes...
Yeah.
Right, the truth goes through three stages. All truth goes through three stages. First, it is openly ridiculed. Second, first, the truth is openly ridiculed. Second, the truth is vehemently opposed. And thirdly, the truth is readily accepted as fact. And that's what the CIA have always done. You know, decades after it was found out that, all these atrocities were committed in MK Ultra and other things that the CIA did, 50 years later, the CIA says, oh, we're sorry. We would never do that. That was them. That's not us. You see, that's how they do it. So in 50 years, they'll do the same thing. They'll say, that was us, we'd never do that. They never stopped. But the point is this. The point is that, I was in Havana, Cuba. 3 times I was in Havana, Cuba. Before the American embassy personnel were attacked, I was being attacked with directed energy in Havana, Cuba, inside my hotel room. And the Cubans witnessed the whole thing. I got arrested in the Havana airport because the Cubans, I was an American that kept coming into their country, so they wanted to know what was going on. So they did a luggage search. And when they checked my luggage, they found Dr. Robert Duncan's book, Project Soul Catcher, and on it said CIA. And as soon as the guy read the word CIA, he whistled. And when he whistled, as loud as he could, people just surrounded me from every direction. I was surrounded by Cuban secret police. I was surrounded by ordinary police. I was surrounded by, airport security. I mean, I just was surrounded from every direction. And then for hours, they kept me hours detained in that airport before finally releasing me. But they kept me under watch 24/7, and they watched the disruption of my internet was disrupted. That could not have happened without the Cubans participating. But they never stalked me. I was never harassed by Cubans. The harassment and the stalking that I endured in Cuba was from Americans. I could tell they were American because I was talking to them. I was having a conversation with them. It's from they were Canadian, one of the two. It's either them or other foreign nationals. That's who they were using. Because as soon as I took a plane from Cuba to Bogota, as soon as I arrived in Bogota, the girl that was in the same hotel with me that I had a dinner with at the restaurant in Havana, Cuba, she suddenly shows up at my hotel in Bogota, Colombia. Oh, hey, What a coincidence.
Really?
No, it wasn't a coincidence. Yeah.
Did
So,
she had no explanation of how she knew
yeah.
where you were?
Oh, it's total. I'm a tourist. I'm a backpacker. I'm from Norway. They were using foreign nationals against me in Havana, Cuba. But the Cubans weren't participating in it because they don't trust the Americans. Okay? But so they didn't stalk and harass me or attack me in any way in Cuba. They just watched my every move. And so they watched all this develop. They watched me cringe in pain, and they watched the the directed energy attacks against me. They watched me on social media when I get on the internet. Because in Havana, Cuba, the only way to get on the internet is to go to the hotels. Just if you're a tourist anyway. I don't know how they, at least that's how it was then. Now, I don't know what it's like now, but that's what it was like back in 2015 when I went into Cuba, and I was there 3 different trips. Finally, the Cubans put me on a plane and said, "You can't seek asylum in our country. Go away." So they sent me back to Central America. But that's because the Americans, I think, were behind it. But the point is, I was being attacked in Cuba, and the Cubans witnessed the entire thing. Not just I was being stalked, I was being harassed, and I was being attacked with directed energy.
So you think the Cuban intelligence was like surveilling what America was doing to you?
Yeah. They were watching everything. Everything they were watching. Well, they remember that they say that they manufacture evidence against you, and then they lie, they use slander, they use manufactured evidence, or they use this technology to set you up and entrap you with real evidence. Like, for example, they put drugs underneath my bed in the Veterans Center in San Diego, California. I just was trying to get out of the country, but I was hurt, I was injured, and I couldn't care for myself. So I had to go to the Veterans Center, and I was there for about a little over a month, and suddenly they find drugs under my bed, and the police it's just it's another game, it's another cycle of trauma, R&M trauma, but that's just an example of what they've done to me. I don't know what they're claiming. I have no idea, but with this technology, they can set you up very easy. Okay.
I don't even
Especially
know
when
the things that they've said that I've done, but my neighbors in the condo, they seem to think that I've done something. They look at me and they treat me as if like I'm a criminal who they have something in their head that I've done.
Well, when I was in the Iranian embassy, I was inside the Iranian embassy meeting with the assistant ambassador. The ambassador didn't meet with me. The assistant to the ambassador did meet with me in the Iranian embassy in Madrid. And his question to me was this: does the American embassy know that you're here in this embassy, our embassy right now, asking for asylum? In other words, he was surprised that I wasn't being arrested. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know what they're saying, but see, that's what they do with targeted individuals. They hide behind, set up and entrap the victim, then they hide behind and they use law enforcement. Once you leave the country, they have to red flag you with Interpol. They have to justify the surveillance. They can do whatever they want to me here in Europe. Obviously, I've been beaten up pretty badly here. Mm-hmm. But I was in countries like Nicaragua. I was in countries like Cuba. I was in countries like Ecuador. I was in China. I was in Russia. I was in Serbia. I was in countries that don't trust the Americans. And in countries like that, they had to justify the 24/7 surveillance that trauma-based mind control is dependent on. So they use law enforcement and other agencies to do this, and so they trump up these charges. I've been under Interpol. The best I can surmise, this has been going on against me since I've known it was going on. I can't tell you when it started, but this is the 24th year. It was well underway in 1997. Okay, I don't know when it began. Could go all the way back to childhood. Okay, but I can tell you for an absolute fact it's well underway in 1997. That's when they first used voice of God weapons against me, stalking, directed energy attacks, etc. And so whether or not now the sound just stopped. I don't know if you're running a fan in the background or not, but there's now total silence.
My computer is heating up. Yeah, people complain about that.
So when I was in the Iranian embassy begging them for asylum in Iran, they were looking at me, and he said, does the American embassy, he was dumbfounded. He said, does the American embassy know that you're sitting in the Iranian embassy right now asking me for asylum. He was dumbfounded because they're saying I'm this criminal. Why aren't they arresting me? How can you be? You know, this has been going on for 24 years. It didn't take Interpol 24 years to investigate Carlos the Jackal. Okay, now that's not what's going on at all.
Right.
They're doing the same thing to all targeted individuals. Okay, they're using law enforcement. Once you get outside of America, everything changes. Especially if you go to countries that don't trust them. That's why I always tell people, go to Bolivia, Ecuador, Nicaragua, Cuba, because that's where your life's going to improve the most.
Okay.
It's not that they'll stop attacking you. They won't. They just have to be more careful because they're not trusted. The Americans are not trusted in those countries. And because that lack of trust between governments translates into a better quality of life for the targeted individual.
You know, it'd be a good
Now, that's
idea.
not true.
Like for targeted individuals to go to Cuba, and then we're still getting hit by America, right? Because they can just hit you anywhere you go. And then we say, we got Havana. I went to Cuba and I got hit there. We come back and we say we've been hit. Maybe we should do that. You know.
Look, I've been telling targeted individuals for years. Go if you have medical treatment, and medical treatment in Cuba is cheap. It's dirt cheap. Okay. If you need medical treatment, the only place you're going to find it in this world is in Cuba. In the Western Hemisphere is in Cuba. Mm-hmm. They're going to manipulate the medical treatment. They're not going to allow you to get true medical treatment. The only way you're going to get true medical treatment is to take a plane from Miami or Fort Lauderdale to Cuba. And those are their planes that fly out. And
what kind of medical treatment can they even give us when they don't even understand what's happening to us?
Well, there are 14 reasons why Americans are allowed into Cuba, and if you fit one of those 14 criteria, you can fly to Cuba, and it's cheap. It doesn't cost much. Cuba Travel Services is the name of the company on the internet. But one of the criteria is humanitarian or medical treatment, and so if you're going for medical treatment, you can just say I'm going for humanitarian medical treatment, and they have to let you go. The government can't stop you.
Right. Okay. But then you get to Cuba, you get to the doctor, and you say, I'm being targeted by these weapons. I got neurological problems. It's messing up my nervous system and my brain.
Right.
And then they say, okay, we'll give you some pain medication and
they're very advanced. No, they haven't. But one thing the Cubans have done well, and they haven't done much well, I promise you. But the one thing they have done very well is their medical infrastructure, their medical hospitals, their medical schools, their medical training programs. They have state of the art medical in Cuba. It's amazing. You can't even get in. You can't even get a modern TV set, but in a Cuban store. But you could get the best medical treatment outside of America in the world. In Cuba. Yeah. That's why all these Cuban doctors are all over the world. You see Cuban doctors everywhere. They're spoken highly of because they're highly trained.
But you're just saying regular medical treatment, like take care of your pain and
like for an ear examination. No. Medical surgery, anything you need, get done in Cuba, and it will be the highest quality standard. But if you need testing, blood testing, you need brain, to determine if you have brain damage, you need a functional MRI. They can do all of that in Cuba, and it's very cheap. But that's the only place targeted individuals are going to get objective, true, unbiased, and medical treatment. Because the Americans are not going to allow you to get medical evidence to prove that these atrocities are happening to you.
But with the things that are changing, that may change. More doctors may step up and say, we know about this, people are getting hit with this stuff, and more doctors may say, we're going to treat the victims who this is happening to. So it could change.
Independent, that's a key word. Independent doctors will step forward. Okay? Independent doctors, but there are not many of them anymore. In America, the Obamacare Act basically changed everything. And even the major clinics now in most cities and states, they're all bought up by these RGOs and by the hospitals and the companies which own them. Okay, so there are very few independent clinics. There are very few independent doctors. The only independent clinics you really see anymore are the specialist clinics like, spinal surgery, like, or these urgent care clinics. Those are basically the specialist clinics, and these urgent care clinics they're the only ones that are independent now because of the Obamacare Act. And if you pull, there's a video I did on that. I posted on my I posted a video on my channel. It's the fourth video down. If you scroll down 4, you'll see where the doctors are laughing. They're saying, "Yeah, weaponization of medicine." They're admitting to the weaponization of medicine.
Really?
If you go to my channel, and you click on the fourth video down, and you scroll down, you'll see the doctors, Dr. Lee Merritt, Dr. Tim Penny, and other. They're admitting to the weaponization of medicine against targeted individuals in the sheepish masses. I doubt they let you play it if it truly is them messing with your computer.
Really, they slow it down somehow because they do it when I'm just doing normal things and I'm just
Do
watching.
you see the video?
Yeah, let me
see the
get
video?
YouTube, your channel, just BRYAN TEW.
Yeah.
It takes me a little while to type in some things and get there, Brian. You're like, you think it just
So-
pops up
so it-
instantly.
So it's
go
not
ahead,
just the weaponization of it's not just the weaponization of medicine against targeted individuals. That's obvious. It's also the weaponization of medicine against the sheepish masses, people who don't even know that it's happening. Like, for example, the vaccines, that the COVID-19 vaccine. That's the weaponization of medicine against the sheepish masses. That's a good example. But it's been going on for a long time before COVID. Okay, and all of that is precipitated by the Obamacare Act, which allowed all these major organizations to come in and buy up these hospital clinics around in each city, and so there are very few clinics, so very few independent doctors, because doctors are all tied to the hospitals now. They're all tied to the clinics. So if they have a mortgage, they have children, they have families, they have careers, and if they speak up, they know what's going to happen to them.
Right,
okay.
Right.
So unless you're dealing with an independent doctor, you're not going to find anyone that's going to come forward and say this is happening. But those two doctors are independent doctors. One of them, I think, is retired. But that's what's happening. Okay, I mean, it's just a game, and it will be a game until your dying breath, and then they'll start the game on somebody else. But they're doing it.
Let's try and play this video. Doctors admit to the weaponization of medicine against targeted individual in the sheepish masses. Let me get that. Let me share
Go
the
ahead and
screen.
press it.
And then you tell me where if you want to.
So basically, it's a deadly game. It's a deadly game designed. Just play it all the way through, and then I'll tell you when to stop it.
Okay.
Designed to walk the targeted individual to their death, to their destruction. Okay, so it's based on trauma-based mind control. Go ahead and play.
Okay.
And if it plays, I'll stop talking. Trauma-based mind control is based on.
Well, I'll tell you how we got here, and I don't think it's
psychophysics.
This is
That's
a talk
Brian.
I'm starting to give about the weaponization of medicine.
Hold on, I didn't share the
what
sound.
happened is, during the Obama era, and we got Obama.
Hold on 1 second. Oh my god. My attackers are using remote.
And so that's the science. Well, I told you I didn't think they let you play it.
No, I can play it. I forgot to share the sound because my attackers make me forget like every time. And
so
I have to do
the science behind mind control is called psychophysics. It's very important people understand that. And the technology behind mind control is called psychotronics. Okay? So those are the two things that they're using against their victims. And if people could have a basic understanding of Plato's allegory of the cave, if they could just understand that, they'd have a good idea, started from the beginning, of what's happening to them. And Plato's allegory of the cave, if you just look it up on YouTube, Plato writes a story of a fictional cave that houses a row of chained inmates. And the inmates, the prisoners inside that single blank wall all their life, from early childhood all the way up to adulthood, they're only able to see this wall in front of them, this blank wall. They're not even able to move back and forth to see their fellow captors. And behind the prisoners who are forced to look at this blank wall sits a fire. A fire is lit behind them. Remember, this is Plato. This is ancient technology, okay?
Right.
And in front of that fire, behind the prisoners, in front of that fire is a walkway, okay? And so it's real simple to understand. You have the prisoners, the fire, and the walkway, and the blank wall, okay? The fire and the walkway are behind the prisoners. The blank wall is in front of the prisoners, okay? So the objects, men and women, children, animals, objects are passed back and forth across that walkway each day as people walk to and from their daily activities. And, and the fire creates a light which casts a shadow on the wall. Okay? And that those shadows are all the prisoners will ever see. And Plato says that because that blank wall, the shadows that are cast on that blank wall, is all that the chained inmates will ever see. Plato basically posits that since that is all the prisoners, the shadows are all the prisoners will ever know, that those shadows then become the reality for those prisoners. That's their only reality because they'll never know or see anything else. That's called Plato's allegory of the cave. So it's a fabricated and falsified reality. That's what they're doing to target individuals, okay? To their mind control victims. Remember, those two key words, fabricated and falsified, are absolutely crucial to understand mind control technology. So if one of the prisoners inside that cave were to escape, okay, or he were to be set free, okay, taken out of the cave and set free, then he would learn the true nature of his reality. He would begin to see the real world as it exists for the first time. He would see the fire as he was going out, and he would fear it because he'd never seen the fire before. All he'd ever seen is light and shadows. Okay, he would fear the interaction with other people, and he would desire to return to his old existence. If you remember the movie The Matrix, there's Cypher, Cypher. Cypher is one of the characters in the movie The Matrix, and he cuts a deal with one of the agents that he just wants to go back to the way things were. You know, he wants to have all this. He wants to be rich. He wants to have women and fame and fortune. And that's what he wants his life to be like. He doesn't want to be in the Matrix anymore. He doesn't want to be in the real world anymore. He wants to go back into the Matrix.
And he eats that steak. He eats that steak and he goes.
He's eating this, right, yeah. Right. He's eating steak, yeah. Right. He's desiring to return to his old existence. That's people who just, try to maintain the status quo. They know something's wrong, but they're too scared to do anything about it, or they don't know enough to do anything about it. If they were ever forced to leave the cave, they would eventually learn the true nature of their reality. For Plato, only the philosophically minded individual can ever miraculously escape this mental prison, this prison as Morpheus told Neo, for your mind, okay, which is basically forced upon the every person at birth through education, through television, mainstream media programming, religious programming, etc. All these different forms of mind control. Plato says only the philosophically minded person can escape from all of that. Okay, and understand this new perception of reality and how it actually exists. Okay, so anybody who would then turn around like the movie The Matrix, they're trying to expose the agents and save mankind and the world. Anybody who would try to do that, a truther, they call them truthers, like you and me. Okay, I'm not a truther, I'm a Christian, but there are truthers out there. Okay, people who are trying to expose all of this. Okay, then those people, if they try to go back. Now we're talking about the allegory of the cave now. Okay, this is very important. So if a person if a truther tried to go back into the cave and set free the other captors that were chained inside, the other prisoners inside the cave, those other prisoners would resist just like Cypher did in the movie The Matrix. You know, they would believe that their friend who had escaped had gone crazy. Okay? They would never believe there's a real world outside the cave, because the only reality they ever knew was inside the cave, right?
Right.
That the shadows on the wall, that's the only reality they ever knew. And for their friend to tell them, no, there's a real world outside, they wouldn't believe it, or they would resist believing that their friend had somehow, you know, been turned crazy or harmed in some other way. And so, to compare, if you were to compare Plato's allegory of the cave to the Matrix, the row of the chained prisoners are the humans, are us, the victims, the sheepish masses. Not just the eyes, but all the sheepish masses. Okay, we're the chained prisoners. The ones casting the shadows by firelight are the machines, the supercomputers. Okay, and the shadows on the wall are the Matrix. The cave is not the Matrix. Okay, the fire is not the Matrix. The shadows on the wall are the Matrix. Okay, so this fabricated, falsified reality that the prisoners are subjected to their whole life of these shadows that's the actual Matrix. And if they were only ever to experience that digital Matrix, and that digital Matrix is what they perceived as reality their whole life, then they would never accept anything else as being true. And Plato says only the philosophically minded individual, and if you're a Christian, you know this to be true, only the true Christian can break free from that and take the red pill and find the truth and escape this mental prison, okay? This fabricated and falsified reality. That's what targeted individuals are doing. That's what activists and truthers are doing. They're trying to, they're taking the red pill, okay? But some take the blue pill. Some ought to go back to maintain the status quo, knowing that there's a real reality out there, knowing that this is all a lie, all deception and manipulation. It's all a game. They don't care. Just like Cypher in the movie, you know, he wants to go back to his status quo. He wants to go back to this falsified, fabricated reality because it's the safest choice. It's the safest option, okay? And that's what you see the public doing. The public at large basically is blind. They do not know what's truly going on. They are controlled through mass media programming, education, other forms of mind control, religion, and other forms of mind control. They don't have a chance to even choose between the red pill or the blue pill. They stick to what they already know and understand because that's the only reality. Just like the prisoners in the cave, okay, who saw the shadows on the wall. That's the only reality the sheepish masses have ever known. Mm-hmm. So for you to tell them that, you know, that all of this is fabricated and falsified, your careers, your jobs, your families, your livelihood, your ability to go to the store and drink coffee or to read your Bible, that's all manipulated, okay, by a higher elite group of people who want to control and deceive you, okay, to make you believe, like for example, democracy, the press is the government talking points, propaganda machine, the social media is always talking about our democracy. We don't live in a democracy, but you see, the sheepish masses don't know that.
Yeah, I think we live
targeted
in
individuals, philosophically minded activists.
Mm-hmm.
Well, technocracy.
Anarcho-tyrannism is where the public can't do anything and can be just experimented on and everything, but the elite class or the government class can do whatever it wants, like torturing people 24 hours a day. It's like an anarcho.
Right, they can't escape the cave. That's my point. My point is we're still focusing on the allegory of the cave. To understand what's happening to you, you have to have a basic understanding of the technology and tactics. And one of the things that targeted individuals must understand is Plato's allegory of the cave. Mm-hmm. Only then can you begin to escape these fabricated and falsified reality which they've constructed. Okay, just go to school, obey the law, get an education, work hard, you'll be happy. That's all a lie. That's all a lie. Okay, but they believe it because it works for them, and it's the only reality they ever knew.
Right.
Okay, so these models of deception and manipulation are not just being used against targeted individuals. They're being used against the whole, all of America.
So
the cheapest masses.
Reality is no longer reality. Perception is reality, and I think that's what human beings are going to have to get over is that
pseudo-reality.
Right, because the mind perceives reality, and that's what these people at the top of the pyramid, there's so much about reality by consensus. We can just create a reality if we mind control people, but the deal is that there is a real reality. How people perceive that reality doesn't really matter to the concrete reality.
And Plato was before Christ, and so he never had access to the truth. Okay, but Christians know this, that they know that there is a truth. There is an absolute truth that cannot be fabricated or falsified. Okay, the Word of God, Jesus Christ, the gospel. And through that truth, they're able to escape the spiritual and the physical fabricated and falsified existence in which they live. But it's only through the truth, through the Word of God, that they're able to escape. You see, it's not just targeted individuals. It's about the fabrication and falsification of a person's, you said earlier, perception. And they're targeting your daily motives and your emotional perception. Why? That's the Mandela effect. I mean, when you talked earlier,
we need to talk. But can I ask you one question? I just want to say one thing, Brian. I always thought that space was the final frontier, was the next frontier, right? But we're hearing from all these people making these neural links to VR and Elon Musk and probably a lot of these contractors. And even now, I see it that the mind is the next frontier before space, And so they're exploring the mind, right, in the wrong way. These people who are experimenting and everything, they're exploring the limits of the mind and everything like that by just killing people, and torturing them forever, which is the wrong way to explore that frontier. The mind is very important, right? But the way that they're doing it is just desecrating it. So it's like if Luciferians worship the light of intellect or whatever, why destroy brains? It's like they're desecrating the things that they believe in,
Well, I mean, people say we only live in a three-dimensional world. Actually, we live in a four-dimensional world, length, breadth, and height. That's when you're talking about space. That's a three-dimensional world. But actually, we know that we live in a four-dimensional world because time is a physical element. It is the fourth dimension that we live in. Okay, so we know for a fact that we can mathematically induce through the math that there are at least 10 dimensions. So 6 of which we cannot perceive, 4 we can perceive. This technology has allowed them to move beyond the 4 dimensions of length, breadth, depth, and time. Okay, time is a physical element, therefore it is a dimension. Okay, so now, when you're talking about traveling backwards and forwards in time, that's no longer, when you're talking about traveling at the speed of light, which Einstein mathematically proved was possible, decades ago. Okay, that's no longer a figment. Time travel is no longer a figment of the imagination when a person can move at the speed of thought. Mm-hmm. And really, to understand what's happening, you have to understand what's happening at Higgs boson. You have to understand what's happening at CERN. String theory, the theory of supergravity, that's all a cover story for what's actually happening at CERN. If you remember I told you the elite, the occultic elite, the elite of this world love to show symbols. They love to express what they're doing publicly to each other. Okay, that's what that procession was all about. Even though it was based on a Swiss legend, a Swiss fairy tale, they used it to illustrate what they were trying to achieve in this world. Well, there's a statue of an Indian goddess called Shiva inside the CERN base in Switzerland. Now, there's not a cross. There's not a Buddhist statue. There's not. It's just a statue of Shiva. Now, people say, well,
yeah.
Well, what the scientists are seeing, they're not seeing. They can't deny the evidence. You know, they could deny it before, and now they can't deny these new. What do you call it when they open a new spectrum? They're opening up new doorways into new dimensions. I can't think of the word. In any of it, they can't deny the evidence of what they're seeing, that there's a greater reality than 4 dimensions. Mm-hmm. Okay, they're seeing it at CERN. Now, what then is happening at CERN? You have to understand that statue. They're using that statue, Higgs boson, to understand what's happening at CERN. Remember, the deep underground bases have now all been completed. They're all interconnected globally around the world, not just here in Europe, not just back in the States. They're all globally connected. And they're miles, 2 to 3 miles deep underground. Okay? And some of them are as big as large cities. Really, they're that big. So they dig a hole in the ground. They drop a nuclear weapon into the ground, which doesn't emit any deadly radiation. And that blast of that nuclear weapon creates a huge hole in the ground. And then they just mine it out. They use top secret technology to mine it out, and they create these vast underground caverns, which they call bases, deep underground military bases. Okay, so what's happening? Higgs boson is the key, and that statue of Shiva at CERN is the key to what's happening at CERN.
Right.
Shiva is the goddess of destruction and recreation.
Right.
Okay, she destroys he destroys to recreate. That's there's Brahma, there's Shiva, and I can't remember the other. Okay, Shiva is the goddess of destruction and recreation. What are they using Higgs boson to do? They're using Higgs.
It's like order.
Right. What they're doing is they're trying to break down matter to the atomic level, to its to the very atom. Okay, just like they did the hydrogen bomb, the atomic bomb. They're trying to break not just energy. They broke energy down to the atomic level with the atomic bomb. Now they're trying to break matter down, the 4 dimensions down to the atomic level. Why? To recreate the face of Earth, to recreate a new Earth. So they go down into their underground bases. They release the dark matter from Higgs boson that they discovered through the Higgs boson particle. Okay, and that dark matter recreates everything on the face of the Earth.
It doesn't just recreate everything under the Earth. It recreates everything on top too. I mean, wouldn't it just destroy
the surface of the Earth?
It would just completely.
Yeah, totally. Kill everybody. It would. Yeah. Eventually, it would kill everybody. All they'd have to do.
I would think the Earth would just implode. Like if they hit a black hole.
No.
They just go.
No, all they have to do is release enough dark matter in certain areas. Enough dark matter in certain areas at key locations around the world to slowly destroy the entire face of the Earth. So they do it in segments. They start, in Africa, then they work their way to Asia, then the industrialized. Once they saw that it worked properly, they're trying right now to figure out how to do that.
But would it?
They're trying to figure out.
What about Agenda 2030? Don't they want to keep all the land and the grass and the trees, and then get people in the smart cities? So they wouldn't destroy
remember that.
Or anything.
Remember the death in the procession at Gothard Pass. Mm-hmm. Remember that procession? You remember at the end of the procession, people are coming out of the caves and they're jumping and shouting, and they're no longer human; they're transhuman, and they're all happy and they're okay. See, that's what they envision. Okay, and so they can take dark. It's not necessary to remake the entire surface of the Earth. All that's necessary to do is to remake certain sections of the Earth. Mm-hmm. You see, that's all they have to do. So they want to take the Earth that's dying, and they want to destroy it and recreate it. And that's what they're doing at CERN. They're learning how to take the Higgs boson God particle, okay, break it down to its atomic level, and then reassemble it. That's what they're doing.
I think that they're getting too big for their britches, and if they do something like that,
Oh man,
it could just destroy the Earth. I think the New World Order's plan at the top of the pyramid is too big for their britches. Like, people are figuring it out, and they're gonna, collect together and fight the system.
They won't fight. They won't do anything because they'll be robots. They'll be mind controlled by supercomputers.
Well,
those that are left from the Katabo, the anarchy is coming. Okay, if you look at America's a perfect example. It's choreographed, it's orchestrated anarchy. Antifa beating up police officers, attacking police officers, not letting. I mean, with weapons. My goodness, I mean, they're not even going to jail. Okay. Black Lives Matter, burning down, these are all controlled from the top down. And it's not just those organizations, it's many others. Okay, they're orchestrating chaos, order out of chaos. Remember that on the dollar bill? Mm-hmm. Or what not the dollar bill, but where is that order out of chaos is
it's the
Masons. Is it a Masonic?
Yeah, the Masons believe that.
Anyway, that's what they're trying to achieve. So the anarchy is coming. They call it the Katabo, the overthrow. This Katabo is coming, okay, and it's going to start with a breakdown of the currency-based system, the orchestrated collapse of the currency-based system, all orchestrated by the major intelligence agencies. That's why they're all adopting these cryptocurrencies. Yeah. They're racing as fast as they can to adopt these new cryptocurrencies.
I don't see why people think those are free. People think that those are just like, oh, that's a free form of money, and it's independent. It's like the best form, but it's like completely set up to be like credits, to be a digital currency, or to be the precursor for a digital currency. Because even if you have an independent person that owns like Bitcoin, somebody else can buy Bitcoin, like a big corporation, a global corporation. And then different countries can say, well, we're gonna, like buy.
Well, nobody owns Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not owned by anyone. Bitcoin. listen. Blockchain. People don't understand the difference between blockchain
Nobody
and
owns Bitcoin. Somebody owns it. Somebody owns it.
Everybody. What I'm saying is everybody that owns Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not a
whoever owns the most Bitcoin owns Bitcoin, and
right.
That's the inventor of Bitcoin, who is this, I think a Chinese guy or Japanese guy that nobody's ever seen. And it's like, okay even
you
if
have to understand.
Anybody can buy it.
You have to understand blockchain.
I don't have to understand blockchain.
You have to
All I have to understand is somebody can own that. Somebody can buy that. They can buy the most Bitcoin and own Bitcoin. Any corporation, any global corporation can do that, or any country, or any like federal government can buy that.
Well, because it's all controlled at the New York Stock Exchange, and I don't know much about stocks and bonds. Okay, I mean, you may be right to a certain extent. I'm talking about the actual currency and the science behind it. Okay? So it's not just Bitcoin. I mean, you've got Dogecoin, you've got all these other. You've got even corporations and banks now are adopting their very own digital currencies. Venezuela, who has no currency, basically, it's a totally poor country with nothing. Venezuela, they've adopted a digital currency based on the raw materials that they have in the ground, the oil, the gold, and all of that. So they tied their digital currency to that, I don't remember what they call it. Anyway, so it's happening across the world, and what they're doing is they're moving away from, they're carefully orchestrating the collapse of the currency-based system. So the Katabo will begin with that anarchy, with that overthrow of the currency-based system. Now, this is what I've been trying to get to before we went off subject here, and you got me confused. I forgot what I was thinking about.
We didn't get off this. Okay. I asked you one. I put in one thing about Bitcoin.
I know, but my memory's already shot anyway.
I'll just let you talk if you just want to talk. I won't interject.
No. What I was trying to say is you have to understand what they're doing with blockchain. Okay, what they're going to do is they're going to tie people digitally using blockchain, using the science behind digital currency. Okay, blockchain is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not blockchain. Okay,
Right.
two separate and totally different things. They're going to biologically, digitally tie each person, you and me, and each person using blockchain technology so that we buy or sell with our brainwaves. See, the digital currency will be based our ability to purchase, our ability to sell, our ability to buy groceries, engage in business, to do anything, will be based on block bioalgorithms, a blockchain, a biological blockchain, if you will. Okay, that biological blockchain will be.
I'm not hearing you, Brian. Man, it's been a tough getting everything working on here. Brian, you there? You there, Brian? Okay, we'll wait for him to come back in. I couldn't play any. We played one video, and that's all we could get. And then the other videos, I mean, I guess people can say my computer's slow or whatever. I don't even care. It's not that though, because every YouTube video I tried to play, they just froze it where it wouldn't run. Yeah, here he is. Hey, Brian.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You were talking about blockchain.
So, but basically, what I mean is that they're going to create these cryptocurrency biocodes, biological blockchain. Okay, where you and I can't do business without participating in this blockchain and in this digital currencies. So we are going to be tracked and monitored by supercomputers in everything that we do. Not just the vaccine is a step towards. It's not that technology, but it's a step towards that technology. So you're seeing it right now happen. There's a unique biocode for each individual will be developed, comprised of specific cryptocurrency algorithms. So based on each person's one-of-a-kind brainwave signature, nobody has the same brainwave signature, and that cryptocurrency biocode will replace cash as a medium of transaction. So all the governments around the world right now are doing that. They're racing to adopt these cryptocurrencies, and they're slowly and carefully, I might add, they've been doing it for decades, orchestrating the collapse of the currency-based system. And when that happens, the anarchy begins. You're already seeing the anarchy, so they can turn around and create order out of chaos and create this new one world order through Agenda 21, Agenda 30, etc.
And Brian, it seems like they were practicing with Venezuela. You know what I'm saying? It's like with certain countries, they do this process, right? And they get them like, okay, we're going to connect Bitcoin to these resources and stuff like that. So that when they're doing it to America, right there, they practice on certain countries and people, and then they get better at it or whatever, you know.
Right.
It seems like
but
that.
everything's dependent upon, it's contingent upon their ability to implement the technology, and they're still as sophisticated and advanced as the technology is, mind control technologies are. And remember, mind control is just terminology for artificial superintelligence technologies merged together with brain-to-computer interfaces, brain-to-brain interfaces, brain-to-cloud interfaces called neuroreality. But that's a mouthful, so we just say mind control. And people think when they hear mind control, they think, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Well, they don't understand it's artificial superintelligence merged with these supercomputers. Anyway, neuroreality is what it's called. We just say mind control. People can't even get their head around that. Okay, but that all depends upon their ability to get the training, research, and development done behind the reverse engineering the will, intellect, and emotion of human beings to create this technology. So that's what I was trying to tell you. In order to control people, attacking people with directed energy and stalking and harassing people, that's relatively simple. They got that down pat. What they still don't understand, and they still haven't figured out, is how can you control a person's memory and thought process? How can you, by creating a cognitive model, how can you achieve direct behavioral control over the will, intellect, and emotion of another person? Right. They're still working that out. So you haven't seen that, but that's how they create these shooters. That's how they create these killers. They're just constantly, the supercomputer and the hive mind teams are taking these targeted individuals like myself, like you, and they're using us as guinea pigs, and they're constantly activating and reactivating specific sets of brain waves in our brain, these streams of energy, right, which contain a hidden carrier frequency, artificial brain waves like rage, lust, fear, paranoia, guilt, but not just the associated, not just the motivational impulses. So those are emotional responses, motivational impulses, but also the memory references itself of each memory that we create in our minds. You said you wanted to talk about Mandela effect. Well, I think it's a very important topic that people need to understand. And I was on YouTube the other day, and there's thousands of people talking about the Mandela effect. They actually believe it's real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's some weird stuff.
And you said it's
the Hindenburg people survived on it. There was a war on the East Coast of America during World War II, which I never learned in school. The Statue of Liberty at one point in our history was attacked by Germany, and I don't know if it was World War I or World War II. I think you know what I think. I think that they are rewriting history because they want to rewrite this time on. They're practicing rewriting history and remaking history, like with textbooks, different pictures, stuff like that, and saying, hey, this happened when it didn't, because they want to be able to rewrite all of history. So they're doing it incrementally. They're incrementally playing with people's minds and actually changing, saying this happened when it didn't. Just practicing so that they can make history whatever they want after this bloody period of time. And they can just make people think whatever they want to think happened here. You know, that's what I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's just, you said it last week. You said it's a psyop. I mean, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. But people actually think that it's real. Listen, not only is it not real, not only is the Mandela effect just another tool and instrument to basically to interconnect, to bring more victims into the technology. Okay. Again, people constantly respond to these fabrications and falsifications. Okay, everybody that keeps responding and researching these Mandela effect, they're actually being targeted by supercomputers. They're actually becoming victims. Okay, that's how they target them. They get them to lock on to this Mandela effect thing. Okay, so if I begin to lock on to the Mandela effect, and I begin to watch a bunch of videos, the supercomputer determines through timing and location can determine where I am, what I'm doing, and can lock on my brainwave signature. You see, that's what they're doing.
That's interesting. So it's interesting how so many people who are targeted with weapons, they like you hear videos from them and they're like, this is the Mandela effect. I've got ringing in my ears. And so it's like they're targeted differently. They're targeted with the Mandela effect being the center of their hyper game theory. That's
right. They're using the Mandela effect. They're using these videos, these text, the symbols, the signs, objects, the images, the all of it. Okay, they're using it as verification markers and verification triggers to lock on to the brainwave signatures of those who respond to it. Okay, so if you're sitting behind your computer screen in your living room, you're constantly watching the Mandela effect. The supercomputer is eventually able to lock on to your emotional state by your responses through timing and location. Timing, location, geospatial location. Timing is more complicated to explain, but it basically involves a pulse train of electromagnetic low frequency waves, specifically tuned to the brainwave signature of the victim. And Dr. Robert Duncan talks about that in his book. Let me just break it down for you. There is no such thing as the Mandela effect. It does not exist. It never existed to begin with. Nelson Mandela never died in prison. The Mandela effect is simply a fabricated and falsified psyop, a psychological phenomenon created by the government, and is done basically to test and validate the memories, the memory references, the emotions
See, I think that they're doing what you're saying with it, but I think they're doing other things with it too. And it's like the Mandela effect exists, but not in the way that reality is shifted or anything like that. It's a psyop.
You said it.
I think they're changing history.
You said it.
I think they're doing
right.
what
It
you're
does. It does.
targeting people based on their belief in the Mandela
You're right. Well,
exactly. Yeah.
Well, yes and no. I mean, okay, let me first explain how it comes into effect. It does not exist at all, but it can be brought into existence, and I'll explain. Okay, and that's how they're getting people. Okay, so once you understand that it's fabricated and falsified, those are two key words that mind control victims need to understand because it involves every facet of their targeting. Fabricated and falsified. Okay, psychological phenomenon to test and validate memories, which either never existed to begin with, or which did exist, but differently than the victim recalls, like the Hindenburg, okay, to determine what an individual or a society can maintain as truth. So then, in order to understand fabricated and falsified and how it applies to the mind control victim, you have to understand the psychological phenomena itself. A falsified memory is simply a psychological phenomenon where a person recalls an event or topic which never happened to begin with. It never occurred. That's a falsified memory. Okay, they remember it to have happened, but it never happened. A fabricated memory is a psychological phenomenon where a person remembers an event or topic which did happen, but which occurred differently than the way that it actually happened. Okay, so the Hindenburg, you were talking about the Hindenburg. Okay, that's a good example. Okay, so that's the difference between fabricated and falsified. Falsified never happened to begin with, but the person remembers it. Fabricated, it did happen, but differently than the person remembers it. So then, if you can understand that, the difference between a fabricated memory and a falsified memory, then you can understand the Mandela effect. It's just basically models of deception and manipulation, videos, signs, objects, images, etc., text. Okay, the Bible, for example, they're changing Bible words saying it's the Mandela effect. No, it's not. Okay, it's just models of deception and manipulation to manipulate. This is very key because you were talking about perceptions earlier. To manipulate, I said it earlier, the daily motives and emotional perceptions, not just of an individual, but of a population or even entire segments of a society at a time. So they're using these fabricated and falsified memories, which never existed or which existed differently than they actually happened, to do that. So the Mandela effect. So hold on, I'm answering your question. Okay. So the Mandela effect never existed to begin with, at any time in the past. Not since Nelson Mandela until now did it ever once exist. It's all fabricated and falsified. It only comes into existence, okay, once it captures the attention, the active memory of the people they're targeting. Then it becomes the Mandela effect. So no matter how fabricated or falsified the image or the video may be, okay, if it doesn't capture your attention, the Mandela effect does not come into existence. It's only when the video or the image or the object captures your attention, the Hindenburg, the image of the Hindenburg and all these people escaping alive, when only a few actually escaped, okay? Only when that captures your attention does it become the Mandela effect. You see? Mm-hmm. So the CIA and the DI...
The one in the Bible, the one that says the wolf will lay down with the lamb, and everybody remembers it and remembers reading it in their Bible, is the lion will lay down with the lamb. It was always the wolf will lay down with the lamb, and then people misquoted it on billboards and in church or something like that, and then they use that because that's a really intense one. That's an intense one where people are saying they're going back to their older Bibles and they remember reading, and the lion will lay down with the lamb, and it's changed to the wolf will lay down with the lamb. It's a really intense.
The problem is this: it's happening and it's not happening with the Bible. Okay, it is and it isn't, and it's very important people understand. There are so many translations in the English. I think there are over 50 English translations of the 50 now of just the English translations of the Bible. Okay, now you're talking about Spanish and French and German and Russian. Now think about how many different variations you've got. And when you try to translate an ancient language with very few adjectives and adverbs, back into modern day 21st century English or German or Spanish, you're going to lose some of the meaning. Okay, the word believe, for example, for God so loved the world that whoever believes on the Son of God should not die, should not perish, but have everlasting life. Okay, that word believe in Hebrew has a totally different meaning that it has in Greek as well, than it has in English. And it's one of the most, faith, for example, is one of the most misunderstood things in all the Bible. Okay, it has a totally different meaning in the Greek and the Hebrew, faith, than it does in the English, and people don't understand. Then you take that misunderstanding of the actual real translation, and then you deliberately mistranslate it, and you can see that through the course of just a few models of deception and manipulation, how the Bible can be translated in such a way where people can no longer understand the truth. It's happening right now in Iran, in Iran. The only Bible that you can buy is the Barnabas Bible. The Barnabas Bible is totally heretical. It says, and Muhammad, the Barnabas Bible ends with the words, and Muhammad will come and he will make everything right. And the Barnabas Bible actually makes Jesus look like a prophet and a really good man, but not the Son of God. It's totally heretical. But it's the only Bible you can buy in Iran. Okay, otherwise they got to sneak real Bibles into Iran. And Iran is the fastest growing church in the world. The fastest growing church, faster than China now. The number of Christians, born again Christians in Iran, is the fastest growing in the world. Okay, and they're trying to stick these real Bibles in because they're dealing with this phenomenon right now called the Barnabas Bible. These mistranslations are not the Mandela effect. Okay, the Mandela effect is where they use objects of deception and manipulation, and then through the targeting of your active memory, they're able to make you believe that this actually occurred. This fabricated memory, this falsified memory that never happened actually did happen, or it occurred differently than the way you believe. You and I both know that the Barnabas Bible is heretical. Okay, so it's not a Mandela effect for us. It's just it's a deliberate mistranslation. You have to understand the difference between that. So understand then, they're using the CIA and the DOD, American CIA and DOD are using this Mandela effect, this PSYOP. Okay, they're using it to generate falsified and fabricated memories from people, falsified and fabricated memories that never existed, and only come into existence once they become part of the victim, the target's memory and thought process. So the attack on the Statue of Liberty, that never happened. It never existed. Okay.
Didn't happen. Like I never learned.
Only when it captured, right? But only when it captured your attention, if you believed it, did it become the Mandela effect. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You see?
Yeah.
If you didn't believe it, it's just a fabrication of history. Okay.
Well, I believe that they actually changed. They went in and they made up some computer-generated old-timey pictures, wrote a new story about something that never happened in history, and they're practicing to be doing that all the time. And people just going, "Oh, our reality shifted." You know, people will just go,
"Right.
Yeah."
There were German submarines that were engaging naval shipping off the eastern seaboard during World War II. I studied history in college. I know that's a fact.
I'm talking about planes. I'm talking about like planes going, like flying over North Carolina, not just submarines, but like actual fighter planes fighting over like North Carolina in the eastern seaboard, which I never learned about in school. Maybe it happened, but I don't remember it. And I was in AP history, you know.
So the thing is to remember this, okay, with the Mandela effect, is it does not capture your attention. It does not come into effect. There is no Mandela effect. The Mandela effect only comes into existence once it captures the active memory, once it becomes part of the victim's memory and thought process. You see?
Right.
So it doesn't matter how fabricated those planes were. If you never saw it or you never heard about it, the Mandela effect doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. It's simply a matrix of models of deception and manipulation. Listen, they're using these models of deception and manipulation to reshape societal thoughts and behavior by reshaping memories. If they can reshape your memory and thought process, they can reshape your behavior. You understand? It's a method of direct behavioral control.
I mean, it's like the same thing they do to us on a targeted individual level, they do to the population, you know, testing their beliefs, like pushing their beliefs and seeing how far it will go, you know.
Well, there's a difference between disinformation, misinformation, misdirection, misattribution, etc. There's a difference between all that and the Mandela effect. I mean, they're constantly engaging in lies, and deception, and manipulation. They've been doing that for years. The Mandela effect is a relatively new phenomenon. Okay, it's a psychological phenomenon that's only recently come into existence. It's totally government created. It's totally fabricated and falsified. Okay, but it's just a matrix. Remember we were talking about the matrix earlier? That's what it is. The Mandela effect is a matrix. Yeah. It's shadows on the wall.
And it's it's created something very dangerous. There are people now that they say don't even look at the details of society. This reality is not real. It's being controlled by something, not even the people at the top or anything. And like all these people dying and stuff, it's not really real. You don't need to worry about that. Just reality isn't real. You know, we just need to worry about our spiritual being and stuff like it. It's a weird belief, but these new beliefs are cropping up where it's like you don't need to pay attention to what's going on in the world. You don't need to help anybody. Reality's not real. You know, just take care of yourself and we need to figure it out, but nothing's real. Like very dangerous. It's like very, very dangerous.
Yeah, but the allegory of the cave is a perfect example of the Mandela effect. Okay, The Matrix, the movie The Matrix is a good example, not a perfect, but a good example of the Mandela effect. In other words, if you don't become dependent upon the fabricated or falsified memories which they're able to generate through these totally fabricated and falsified images, objects, stories, etc., whatever they're using, then there is no Mandela effect. It's only when it captures your attention and you believe it, you become dependent upon that fabrication or falsification, that the Mandela effect comes into existence. So if you don't believe that evil aliens are trying to, take over Washington, D.C. right now, then the Mandela effect, even though you read it, even though you saw it in the newspaper, it didn't come into effect. The Mandela effect only comes into effect if you jump on the phone and the internet and start trying to look for the aliens. You see? You become dependent. So even the stream of energy is fabricated or falsified.
How would you call the aliens? Would you just be, who would you call? Like Waffle House? You think they work there? Like I'd like to. I'm just joking, man.
No. Listen, though, really though. I mean, there are people. You'd be surprised what people will believe. I mean, you really be surprised.
Well, I believe some crazy.
I'm not saying that there aren't evil aliens. I don't know if there are or there aren't. I've never met one that I know of. Okay, but the point is, there are people. The point is not whether or not you believe in evil aliens. Okay, the point is because most people don't believe in evil aliens, they automatically associate mind control and the other atrocities of the American government as being unbelievable as well. So all you've got to do is get on phone and engage in the Mandela effect. Okay, they use the Mandela effect on me a lot. They'll jump into these chat rooms. They'll jump into these telephone calls, these conference calls, targeted individual support groups, and they'll start talking about the atrocities of the American government. This is what they're doing to people. They're targeting people and they're torturing people and they're killing people and they're using, and all that's true, right? Mm-hmm. And then they're saying, oh, by the way, they got the technology from evil aliens.
I've said that.
You see how that works?
I thought that Nikola Tesla.
Well, then the Mandela effect. Then the Mandela effect worked.
No.
The Mandela effect worked on you.
I'm just saying there's been back engineering, and I wonder if that the Germans.
Oh, probably there's reverse engineering. But what I'm saying is that's not important. What I'm trying to tell you is that's not important. What's important is because most people don't believe in evil aliens, they automatically disregard, they automatically refuse to believe, they automatically just reject the atrocities and mind control of the American government against innocent people that's happening as well. You see?
Right.
That's how they use the Mandela effect against targeted individuals. They use it on, let me tell you how they use it on me. There's a video of a Christian woman, a very attractive Christian woman on YouTube, and she's giving her Christian testimony. I just think she's beautiful, and I think, you know, it's an incredible testimony, and it's the testimony that I'm interested in. It's not the woman. I'm a targeted individual. I'm not having any relationship with anybody, right? Because I don't want them to get targeted. But it's the testimony that captured my attention. It was not the woman, but the supercomputer picked up on the woman. Okay, and so for the last 2 years, every time I start listening to Christian music, or I start reading a book or doing something, the supercomputer injects the memory reference of this woman over and over. And fabricated and falsified memory references and motivational impulses regarding this woman and her Christian testimony. Totally falsified, not my memory, not my thoughts at all. Okay, but my mind begins to run with these because my mind will begin to run with these. Remember, I told you grandiose, graphic, abusive, incoherent thoughts.
Right. Yeah.
All they have to do is inject with a motivational impulse of lust, and your mind will start running so we'll start generating all of these memories of sexual memories, either fabricated or falsified. And they never happened, or they happened differently than you recall.
Right.
You'll start thinking of things that actually happened. It's the lust. It's the motivational impulse of lust that's causing your mind to think of all these things, to generate all these memories. Okay? Then they'll inject with the motivational impulse of anger or rage, and you'll start having fabricated and falsified memory references about killing the stalkers. Totally falsified, totally fabricated. I'm not having those. I'm just saying that's what they do to people. Okay? Right. And that's how they turn them into these killers. Okay?
I find with my targeting, it's like they mix, like it's going on so long that they things that I might think at this point in time in my targeting, it's not like hurting anybody or anything like that, but depressed thoughts or I don't know, things like that. It seems like they mix that in with intensifying it, you know. But I see what you're saying. You know.
Not just a memory reference, it's the associated impulse.
Yeah,
okay?
they'll sometimes use like regular. They'll use like memories that were real, but intensify the feeling about them and keep injecting.
That's fabricated.
Right. Okay.
That becomes fabricated. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
It actually happened, but now you're remembering it differently than it actually occurred. That's fabricated.
Like a real memory, but they'll keep injecting it. Like my dad, when he had his aneurysm, I held him in my arms, right? He was looking at me, he couldn't talk, and they were hitting me in the groin with microwaves at the same time, and the EMS workers were in there and stuff like that, and they will play that memory like over and over my head, but it's like something that I might obsess on because it's so traumatic, but they're doing,
right.
You know, they're using it.
But what I'm saying is, you're not thinking of it every 30 seconds, every 60 seconds, every 90 seconds.
Right.
The supercomputer's injecting of it. Therefore, it is fabricated. If it was your normal memory and thought process, then it would be real. But it's not real when the supercomputer is constantly injecting it into your mind. That's fabricated. Understand?
Yeah.
If your own normal memory and thought process came up with the thoughts of your father, that's real. Okay? But it's no longer real, even though it actually happened. Remember, the supercomputer is any set of brainwaves can be remotely captured. Any thoughts, emotions can be remotely captured, held, and perpetually replayed in your brain. Okay? That perpetual replaying, that repetitive reinforcement, that's fabricated. Doesn't matter how true it is. Okay, it's no longer real because it's not your normal memory and thought process. It's not your real thoughts.
But this is the problem, Brian. After people have been targeted for so long, they tend to have obsessive, anxious thoughts from being tortured so long and so much trauma. Then it begins to be hard to tell apart a pattern of fabricated and falsified memories, and then just like trauma.
That's the danger.
That's a very big danger. You know. To being able to just
the danger is that.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
The danger is that a person will reach the point where they can no longer discern between the real and the artificial. At that point, their soul is hanging over hell by a thread.
I guess my
Their
soul is
soul, their
hanging over
eternal
hell
soul.
then, because like my attackers have been doing this for so long that they will inject things that maybe I would think unmotivation and things like that. And it's been going on for so long that they're matching my brain waves way more precisely than they were at the beginning, where it was obvious, oh, that's an anger EEG. That's obvious, right? But now they've been doing it so long that I think they're actually prodding my brain to actually make the thought. You see, I think it goes deeper than just overlays of
But what
EEG.
if,
I think it, at a certain
right,
point,
that's a good
they
word,
can-
overlay. That's a good word, overlay. Yeah.
Right, but I think they can actually force your brain to make a thought itself, which you can't tell apart from the
Yes.
thought your brain's making, because you make thoughts with your brain. I think they have protocols to
If
make
you
your
reach
brain
that
make.
point,
Yeah,
if you reach that point, you're in serious, serious trouble.
I'm not in any
You're
serious
in-
trouble. I
you're-
mean, I
you're-
disagree with you on that.
I'm talking to anybody. I'm talking to anybody. Okay, I'm not just you alone. I'm talking to myself, anybody.
My
okay?
soul's good.
You reach the point. If
You
you're
know?
born again and saved prior to being overrun by this technology, you're fine. If you're not born again saved prior to being destroyed by this technology, then you're not fine. It's just that simple. But what I'm saying is this: suppose it's your grandmother. You're holding your grandmother, and she's dying of an aneurysm. That's the memory you keep having. Well, that never happened. So what is that? Is that fabricated or falsified?
That's falsified.
Right. You see?
No,
difference.
fabricated is something that happened, but it's playing differently.
Right.
But falsified is completely
No,
falsified. Okay, because my grandma really
Right.
is dying. Okay, I got you. So
Right.
it's, yeah, okay, so it's fabricated. Right.
No. So say, for example, you're holding your brother. And you're having a memory of holding your brother, and he's dying of an aneurysm, and he's in your arms.
Okay,
That's fabricated or falsified. What is that?
that's fabricated.
No, that's falsified because it never happened.
But my dad, it happened
totally
to my
falsified.
dad. It's a memory that happened to my dad, but it switched with my brother, so it'd have to be fabricated because that memory did happen. It was just a different person, right? It'd have to be a complete.
Okay, maybe I'm using a bad example. Okay,
I know what
let's
you're
say
saying.
you saw the Hindu.
I get it. I get it.
Let's say, for example, you're having thoughts of the Hindenburg flying over your house. Okay, this is a bit crazy, but okay. What I'm trying to say is something that never happened. That's falsified.
Right.
Okay, and they layer these falsified. They layer these falsified men. This is important now because this is how they get women to believe they were raped as a child by their father. It's how they destroy families. Okay. All right, there's a falsified memories that never happened. They use repetitive reinforcement. They layer in these memories at night during the dream modulation, the neuroprogramming, during the neuro-linguistic programming, the dream modulation. They use repetitive reinforcement at night. They play these memories over and over in your brain. Okay, and until you begin, your normal memory and thought process is now disrupted, and you begin to believe that that actually occurred. There are women targeted with this technology who accuse their father. I don't know of any specific example. I'm just using this as an example of raping them. That it never happened. People can walk up to you and say that never happened, but you'll swear that it did happen.
Yeah.
With repetitive reinforcement, unless you are able to read active memory, with repetitive reinforcement, you will come to believe the memory is your very own. Not, unless you can read active memory. And reading active memory is simply one thing: testing and validating memory. That's it. If you see a pattern, you see it happening over and over again, you know that's not my memory, that's the system attacking me. I'm not obsessive compulsive. I don't have these thoughts every 30, 60, 90 seconds, every 5 minutes. This is a supercomputer attacking me. This is a clear pattern here. Okay, so that's I'm not trying to use your family as an example to cause you trauma. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
That's how. So then through repetitive reinforcement, you become dependent. You believe that the fabricated or falsified memories are your own. That the motivational impulse injections of rage or lust are your very own. Okay. Right. and you begin to believe those responses. That's the system's output. That's the system attacking you. And then you begin to believe that those responses are your own. At that point, they become consistent. That's when the system, that's when the hive mind teams begin to fabricate all these subconscious responses, which they'll pretend are indicators of honesty, dishonesty, anxiety, positive recognition, whatever they're using against you. And they'll use those impulse injections and those memory references, totally fabricated, totally falsified, to convince you that those fabricated, falsified responses are your very own thoughts. And it's when you're unaware of that, when you don't recognize that mental manipulation is happening, is when direct behavioral control happens. When you cannot recognize, that's what I was just saying earlier, the constant mental manipulation is happening, the system begins to shape your thoughts and behavior. It achieves direct behavioral control over you. You see? That's what I mean.
I'll tell you.
They're restricting your thought.
Go ahead. You're good.
They're restricting your normal memory and thought process, and they're injecting constantly, hundreds of times a day. Okay, you could be attacked 100 times in the space of just a few minutes. Okay, so hundreds of times a day they're attacking. The system is attacking you. It's a supercomputer. You can't negotiate with a computer. You can't reason with a computer. You can't surrender to a computer. It's going to continue to do what it's programmed to do: torture and kill. There's nothing you can do about that. But if you're not aware that it's happening, if you're unaware that this constant mental manipulation is happening hundreds of times a day, the system, the supercomputer, will begin to shape your thoughts and behavior. That's how it achieves direct behavioral control over you. Restricting your thoughts and behavior, blocking, interfering with your real memory and thought process, while these fabricated mental suggestions, these falsified mental suggestions are being provided to you, are being injected into your subconscious.
Right.
That's how repetitive reinforcement. And it is absolutely fact. Dr. Robert Duncan was talking about it with me. He was talking about the brain being repatterned. He mentioned it in a Facebook conversation that we had together. He said, "You see, your brain is being repatterned. You're being triggered, and with repetitive reinforcement, neurolinguistic programming, dream modulation, whatever they're using, you will come to believe. It's only a matter of time that you come to believe that those fabricated and falsified memory references and motivational impulses are your own." I had a scientist. I'm not going to name names, okay, because I like the person. But I had a scientist email me the other day saying that I was a perv. This is a scientist. This is not some Joe Smo, okay, some John Doe. He believed I was a perv. You see, he can't recognize the real from the artificial.
Right.
He's a scientist calling me I don't know what he's. An informant, or anyway, I have the email right here on it.
Is he targeted? With weapons?
Yeah, heavily targeted. Yeah. Most of them are. I mean, most of them that try to expose us, they're targeted. If people don't know about it. Dr. Robert Duncan is not targeted anymore because he's a good man, a great man. I have great respect for him. But he was tortured. He was brutally tortured. People don't realize this. I mean, he was tortured brutally, and apparently he was able to do something to stop that. But he told me in an email, a message he sent me, I was tortured brutally, Brian.
Oh,
they tortured me heavily. Yeah. So he's not being tortured anymore. But I know that they do go after any scientist. Look at Dr. John Hall. He's not a scientist. He's a doctor.
And he's tortured. Yeah, heart surgery and everything. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they had damaged his heart. Listen, so it don't care who you are. They don't care whether you're a scientist or a doctor or whatever. That if you try to expose this, they're gonna go after you. But my surprise was this scientist that I know, and I know a few. I know quite a few, but this one I haven't had a lot of communication with. So for him to say that I was, and he had said it one time before. And I emailed him back and I said, listen, I said, if you do not depattern their technology, it's only a matter of time before you're destroyed. And then, of course, the trauma is designed, the pain and the trauma that they inflict upon you is designed to deplete your brain of dopamine. So that amplifies the effects of the paranoia even more. Okay, that amplifies the effects of the anxiety even more because your brain is totally depleted. You can't make up the dopamine, It's just constantly releasing dopamine. Yeah, but I was just flabbergasted that this man who knew quite a lot of the technology had come to the point where he can no longer discern the real from the artificial because he thought I might be an informant. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just didn't respond. I just let that go. I basically have reached the conclusion that that individual has crossed the point where he can no longer determine he's in serious danger.
But Brian, I think that you're wrong
So-
about some of the people that you say are agents. So I don't know, and I think
Well-
I've been wrong too. I think we've all been wrong
Yeah.
about people that we maybe suspected. So I don't
Oh,
think it's
I think, man, I don't think I'm lying about everybody, but there are certain people that I'm pretty sure I'm convinced of. But I'm not going to name names anymore. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not worth it. But here's the point: they turned it into a psyop. What they did with you is they just turned it into a psyop.
No,
okay?
it was.
I'm not going to let them do that.
Let's just move on.
It was.
Let's move on.
So here's the point. The point is that there is nobody out there calling me a perp or an informant. They're calling me everything else, but they don't call me a perp or informant. I don't have that problem. I mean, I get the other part. I get the delusional, the schizophrenic. I get people calling me all kind of names. I don't get the you're a government informant. I never get that. So when that came at me, I was just flabbergasted. I just.
I get called a perp a lot, but the reason I get called a perp is because I do like videos and I try and stay as consistent as I can because we've got to do something about this. And then it's like it seems like when I'm more targeted and more in pain and more tired, that's when people think I'm more perp. It's very weird. When my targeting is way worse, people think I'm a perp because I guess I do weird stuff or I'm acting anxious.
Right.
When I was healthier, people, like, I was still targeted, but I was like stronger. People never question at all. It's very weird.
Yeah.
The worse
Yeah.
I'm targeted-
I was able to determine you were real right away because you just didn't understand a whole lot about anything, and so this is.
That's
I guess
BS,
at the
man.
point
That
of
is such BS.
No, this is back when you were doing a conference call on with Cheryl and all those others.
Like a long time ago.
This is years. Yeah, this is years ago. Yeah, this is years ago. And
Yeah,
then you
that's
didn't.
true.
You really didn't.
Yeah, true. Probably years
But
ago.
you know,
I didn't know
I'm
anything
not
about
saying
it.
I know it all. I'm just saying that and other things. That and other things told me you were real. Okay. And you weren't engaging in patterns of misinformation or disinformation. But the point is, with repetitive reinforcement, it doesn't matter. Unless you can read active memory, the time will come, even when the most logical, when the most sane, the most pragmatic person will come to believe that these fabricated and falsified memories are their own, because the system is constantly replaying them over and over again with repetitive reinforcement. So unless you can read test and validate memory, unless you can read active memory, it's only a matter of time before you're destroyed.
Mm-hmm. But we've
you're
got all
destroyed,
these
you're destroyed
consumer,
forever.
like
Unless-
these soldiers in Syria are being hit by remote microwaves. They're going to have to start openly putting out more defenses for soldiers, consumer products. So it's like, I don't agree that reading active memory is the only thing that can save us, because there's a lot of things coming out that can just block.
No, there's other things you can do. I mean,
Yeah.
there's shielding. I mean, if you could shield with superconductor materials, properly constructed, properly ventilated, with its own ventilation system, properly grounded, you can protect yourself at certain frequencies. They're just not going to allow that to happen. They're not going to allow you to listen. One of the things that they have you constantly surrounded with stalkers is because they want to keep you from feeding the technology. They constantly are using those stalkers as verification markers and verification triggers. Okay, if you engage, for example, we talked about spontaneity. If you begin to defeat their technology using spontaneity, they have got to stop that from happening. And the way they stop that is they keep you surrounded with these verification markers and these verification triggers. These organized stalkers. Let's talk about organized stalking, because people don't understand. I get on YouTube and I sometimes look at the videos. I don't watch them because I consider most of them to be fabricated. But I do look at the initial title of the video, Sometimes I watch a few of them, and people don't understand organized stalking. They just don't seem to get it. Okay, organized stalking is very simple to understand, but you have to understand that it's controlled at the top by community-based agents who are themselves controlled. Okay, so the community-based agents are basically the middleman for the fusion centers. Okay, so the community-based agents are taking all of their orders from the supercomputer. The organized stalkers are taking all of their orders from the supercomputer. They don't know who that is. They think it's a real person. The organized stalkers think it's a real person talking to them. It's not. It's not real. The supercomputer thinks it's real, but it's not.
But
okay?
what about all these workers that work at DHS? You have these centers. Like at the DHS, you have a bunch of people, and you have a bunch of screens and people working on computers in there. You know, I mean, you don't think they're sending out texts to organized gang stalkers? You think it's all a supercomputer?
Yeah, I'm talking about organized stalking. I'm not talking about.
Did I lose you?
Yes, I believe that smart city technologies are absolutely a crucial element, an integral element of organized stalking. Without it, it's not possible. No. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're good.
Yeah. So yeah, I believe smart city technologies are absolutely a crucial integral element of organized stalking. Smart city technologies, and that's the supercomputers. Okay. But the point is this: it's all. First, you have to understand who is stalking me before you can understand why, what, when, and where. You have to first understand who. Community-based agents are always going to be people who have some degree of expertise in the area of surveillance, counter surveillance, etc. Okay, generally they're going to be retired military, retired police officers, etc. Okay, they keep their clearance. These people have to be cleared, have to have a clearance. And when they retire from the military, when they retire from the police force, they keep their top secret clearance. They keep their clearance with the government, and that allows them to double dip. So in order for them to keep their clearance and double dip, they have to set up a secondary occupation or tertiary company in place that allows them to carry on that surveillance, that counter surveillance, etc. So you're going to find out that the community-based agents are private detectives, security consultants, etc., who used to be prior military, retired police force, etc. Okay. Almost always going to be the case. Almost always. So if you want to know who the community-based agents are in your area, start looking at the security consultants. Start looking at the private detectives. If they have any defense contracts with people, those are the people that are controlling the organized stalkers. Okay, those people who are double dipping. They're retired military. They're retired police force. They just kept their clearance.
Right.
Okay. Right. Like Kevin, if you wanted a perfect example of what a community-based agent looks like in Louisiana, I'll give you a perfect example. Kevin Fucich, Fucich. If you write that name down, okay, Kevin Fucich, private detective. If you write that name down, you'll see exactly how they operate. He has his own rapid response team, special forces that work for him. He's a private detective and a security consultant out of New Orleans, Louisiana. But he for the state of Louisiana, for the whole state. Okay, so he's Kevin Fucich, Fucich.
Man, I'm just not sure about releasing these full names on these videos. I don't know if this is going to stay up, because you just can't do that. Like, I don't know. I hope so. I hope so. I think.
Well, I'm talking to you. If you want to re-edit it, that's fine. I'm trying to help other people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
so
I think a full name's okay.
I'm trying to help you understand. Yeah. So those are the community-based agents. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then below them are the surveillance teams. You're not even at the organized stalkers, and they're way down the ladder. Okay. Below the community-based agents are what are called surveillance teams, and these are active duty or prior duty, retired or former military, police, etc. Okay, and they're responsible for maintaining each area, each region of the city which they live. So the community-based agent would be over a specific region. The surveillance teams under the community-based agent would be over specific neighborhoods within that region.
But would there be
Okay,
like a
and
lead,
then
like say in the
they
community, because there's a lead for the state, then a lead for the city, then for the community, would there be a head? Because it seems like I have one guy who seemed to be kind of be the lead guy. And he was like a Mason. I'm not sure what he did before that, maybe military or something, but he seemed to be giving the other people orders and stuff like that. So would there be somebody at the head of it in your community?
Let me give you an example of surveillance team.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you an example of surveillance team. Okay. All right. So I'm in New Orleans, Louisiana. Okay. Kevin Pusich is about to have all his people move in. There's nobody in the building. I'm in one of those boutique hotels, but it's not a hotel, apartment complexes. It has 8 or 10 units. It's a very expensive place to stay in. And so I'm the only person there. And the other apartments are empty. They're totally empty. They're leased to tourists, but it's not tourist season. So they're empty. Okay. I'm there all by myself. Suddenly, overnight, every one of them fills up. And the guy at the top is Special Operations Force Recon for the Marines. He's active duty. Or he claimed to be. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have no doubt that's what he was. Okay. So this would be an example of a person who was part of a surveillance team. They were not coming to arrest me. Okay, they were coming to wipe me from the face of the earth. They were not coming to put handcuffs on me. They were coming to kill me.
So you don't think they were just starting the targeting? You think they were trying to kill you?
They used voice of God weapons on me in 1997.
Yeah.
As I was crossing the front entrance of a police station in 1997 in another country. I know it's the Americans because it was going on in America before then. Okay, but the point is, and after then, it's been going on in America. But the point is, this happened in 1997, and I knew all the police. I went to law school with the chief of police. I knew them. Okay, so I knew. I didn't recognize two people standing at the entrance of the police station. As I was walking across the parking lot, suddenly the voice of this omniscient voice said, "Speak to them." And I knew it wasn't anybody talking to me because nobody was around me. And then it just went on from there. There was stalking. I would collapse onto the ground, unable to breathe. These were directed energy attacks. They had to carry me to the hospital.
Did you think it was
God? Me on ventilation.
Did you think it was God?
Yes. Yeah. At first they fooled me. I didn't fall for it. I didn't fall for it. I thought, well, I'm just hearing things, and I walked away. But I always regretted that for years, thinking the Lord was speaking to me, and I was ignoring Him. Only to realize much later in life that I had become a victim of this technology. Mm-hmm. Okay, but at the time they had me fooled.
Yeah, you want to know the protocol they used on me for my V2K? It was making it sound like it was people above me or beside me, like really, really making it just sound like I could hear people above me or beside me. And they did that, and I thought I could just hear people above me or beside me for like, I think a year and a half. And that's when they were getting the V2K up. I'm a little bit disappointed because everybody gets voice of God. Hey, this is gods and demons. This is an angel. Like, why didn't they do that to me? Because that would have been kind of like, at least I would have had some.
Don't do it to everybody.
I think they looked in my head.
It depends on.
I would have never bought it. Like, I would have never bought it for a second that it was God talking to me.
Well, it depends on what program they have you in. Because remember, you're always going to be in more than one program. Okay, so what they do to you, and especially initially, that depends on which program they place you into. But the point is ventriloquy. Dr. Robert Duncan called it synthetic ventriloquy. Ventriloquy is where you cast your voice. You make your voice. If you ever seen a puppet, a ventriloquist on stage with a puppet, and he doesn't move his mouth, but he makes the sound like the puppet's talking, and it's his mouth. He's throwing his voice. Mm-hmm. And there are people that can throw their voice and make it sound like. There are people that can throw their voice and make it sound like it's coming from somewhere else. Well, they can do that electronically. They can do that electronically. You understand? They can do that electronically. Yeah. Okay, so here's the point. That's synthetic ventriloquy.
Let me explain how
now,
my attackers do that to me. So I'll walk out. There will be people at the pool, right? And I'll be walking to my car, and the V2K, it will make it sound like those people are talking about me. Like, oh, there he is. Oh, he came. Oh, look, he's dirty today, or something like that. Other stuff, better stuff than that, but like that's just an example. But they'll do that to me, where it sounds like it's coming from the people at the pool, but it's the V2K, and it's so precise. It's so precise how it sounds like it's coming directly from the pool. It's like they're using microwave
well, they
hearing.
also.
It's so unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, it's so unbelievable.
What do you mean? What do you mean it's precise?
What do I mean? It's what? Brian, you there?
What do you mean it's so precise?
It's so precise how does it sound
You
like
said
it's
that
coming?
the V2K is precise. What do you mean?
I mean that the ventriloquy is so
Yeah, I'm
precise.
here.
How do they do that? Because the microwave hearing is to your inner ear. How does it precisely sound?
Yeah, you're breaking up.
I was just saying, how does it precisely sound like it's from the pool? It sounds like it's from that exact distance. How do they?
Kyle, you're breaking up.
Okay.
Kyle, you're breaking up.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Brian, you still there?
Yeah, now I can. Yeah.
Okay, you can hear me now. I meant that like.
Yeah, perfectly. Go ahead.
So they're using microwave hearing, and you can.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Are we maybe? Is there a delay? Maybe. Can you hear me?
So if you really were dirty, or you really were wearing a specific color, that means they have to have somebody. I'm gonna have to log out and come back.
Yeah, because you're not. I don't think you're hearing me. 10:30. Oh, y'all can see this. It's already 10:30. I don't mean to be rude. I'm just like I've been sitting at my grandma's house all day. I love Brian, and I'm very interested in this. Hey, Brian, you back? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, they're like cutting off our audio here. Maybe try one more time to come back in if you can hear me. Just go out and come in one more time if you can hear my voice. Because I can't hear you at all. What is going on? They are just messing with this whole thing. Earlier I was like, it's 10:30. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. This is a very interesting interview though. Okay, here we go. I hope people read that. Okay. Hey, Brian, can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. There's a delayed carryover. One of the reasons why it sounds like we're constantly interrupting each other is there's like a 1 second delayed carryover from the time that I speak. I can hear the echo. So I know there's a delayed carryover. Sorry about that. We're not interrupting each other. It's just a delayed carryover.
I got you. You don't happen to have any headphones on?
Yeah, I've got headphones on, yeah.
Okay. What I meant by precise is it's amazing because they're doing the microwave hearing through the brain to the inner ear, but it's precisely sounds like it's from that distance from the pool. That's amazing to me, and I'd like to know, because they're using microwave hearing to do that. How do they adjust that? I would like to, and I know I can't see the systems that they're using, but it's amazing how they adjust it to be so precisely sounding like it's from that person by the pool. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
precise in
it
that
could
way.
be. It could be a cognitive researcher, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a neuroscientist, etc. Okay, that's sitting there. He's remember, as soon as you're targeted, all the available apartments, homes,
it's my
hotel rooms, etc.
It's my remote attackers.
Hold on.
The people by the pool aren't doing anything.
No. I know that. I know. What I'm trying to tell you is how they interact with the supercomputer. Okay. So as soon as you're targeted, all the available hotel rooms, apartments, offices, homes that are around you. As soon as you're selected, okay, they're leased, they're subleased, and people move in, okay, and training, research, and development begins. The hive mind teams move in, the surveillance teams, the organized stalkers, etc. They all move in. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm here.
Okay, and then training, research, and development begins. Now, what will happen is the cognitive researchers, once they have line of sight verification on you, will begin to mock you. Now, they can use their own voice or they can use chatterbots. Generally, they just use chatterbots. Remember, their mind, their brain is linked to the same supercomputer that your brain is linked to. And this bidirectional stream of energy allows a brain to computer interface. So they're able to communicate with the computer, use the chatterbots against you, while simultaneously being in the same room with you or being close to you and looking at you. They can pull up all these screens. They can say things, and they can modulate their voice using special software. They can do it all virtually, all augmented reality, all virtual reality by manipulating their brain waves, manipulating their brain. They can pull up all these screens that you can't see, no one else can see but them. In the third eye, the visual workspace, okay, is what scientists call it. And so they can see all this happening in real time, the data, the objects, the images, whatever they're using to manipulate your brain with, okay, they can see all of that. And so they'll use their own voice, and they'll use voice modulation software to manipulate that voice, to disguise that voice, or they'll just use chatterbots. But they could use those chatterbots against you in real time. So the chatterbot is a special automated ASI, artificial superintelligence. It's able to maintain a conversation with you in real time based upon whatever you're thinking, not just saying, but whatever you're thinking. Remember, the supercomputer is monitoring your thoughts. So these chatterbots are monitoring every thought that you're thinking, and they're able to speak to you using V2K, synthetic telepathy, etc., based on whatever you're thinking. So if you're thinking about your attire, whatever you're wearing, you're thinking about a pool, they're able to communicate with you based on that pool or whatever you're wearing. Whatever you're thinking about is how the chatterbots talk to you. They're called thought-triggered attacks. Thought-triggered attacks, okay? Synthetic telepathy, V2K, etc. These are thought-triggered attacks. Speed of light. Energy travels the speed of light. That's how fast the attacks are. The system is monitoring everything you're thinking in real time. And based upon whatever you think, it attacks with remote neural attacks, synthetic telepathy, or V2K. So people may just be innocent people. But whatever you're thinking about is what the chatterbots will target you with. Whatever thoughts that they've been able to verify previously. So if you're sitting there thinking about the pretty girl standing next to the car, well, then the chatterbot is automatically picking up, the supercomputer is automatically picking up on that. The chatterbots, well, what about the pretty girl next to the car? You start having a audible conversation with you about the pretty girl next to the car. You see, those are thought-triggered attacks.
Yeah. Okay, Brian, I'm having a little bit of hard time paying attention now because we've been going for a long time. Do you want to maybe close out the live?
How long have we been going?
For like I think 4 hours.
How long have we been going? I don't even know.
About 3.5 hours on this one and 30 minutes on the, so 4 hours total. You know, it's been a while.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if we got covered anything really we wanted to cover. We just started talking.
Well, we covered the Mandela effect. We covered a lot of you know, remote neural manipulation. I wish we could have gotten all the videos to play. You know, that would have been nice.
Yeah, that would have helped. That would have helped. But basically, if you just remember thought-triggered attacks, the system is attacking with V2K, synthetic telepathy, etc., based on whatever it is able to read your mind. So if you want to put an end to that, just keep the headphones on. Wherever you go, just keep those headphones on. And the system will still be able to attack you, but they won't be able to attack you based on what you're thinking.
Okay. All right.
And so that's how you'll be able to tell, you know, if it's really happening or if, you know, It's just your imagination, your own normal memory thought process.
Right, right. Okay.
So understand. I just want to get this one thing out before we're done here. Thought
Yeah.
triggered attacks. What I mean when I say thought triggered attacks, what I'm saying is the relationship between your memory references and whatever the system is attacking with, whatever the system's output is. So it could be an audible force speech sequence. It could be V2K. It could be synthetic telepathy. But that's how you understand and you defeat these thought triggered attacks is by recognizing that they're happening. So they're using this constant deception and manipulation based on your own thoughts. Okay, the system captures what you're thinking and mental suggestions. These are mental suggestions, fabricated or false by mental suggestions. Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Okay, Brian, thank you.
Good talking to you, buddy.
It's really good
Yeah,
talking
bye.
to you. God bless, man. Okay, guys, so that was the interview with Brian. What I'm going to do is we had a little 30-minute segment on Zoom, and I'm going to just put that as prelude, and then this will be the interview. It was about 3.5 hours. I really want to thank Brian for coming on and just, going through all the information that he knows, and I hope that this helps some of you guys. We've got a lot of hopeful stuff coming up, so, hopefully we won't just have to use memory management. We use other defenses, and then hopefully we'll have better things coming along. But thank you so much, Brian, and I will get this up ASAP. I don't know if I'm going to get it up tonight, but definitely by tomorrow. I love you guys. And that was just the button to reduce the screen, but but now I'm going to stop the screen sharing. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you all soon.